So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me?
Hello, Smite lovers. Welcome to the Smite Global Series. I'm going to be your host, Anatoly, and joining me for Latin American North is Taco.
Pretty exciting matchups today as well. We're covering North and South Flat M in week number 2 here, so a lot of fun stuff happening between these two teams.
It's week number 2 and phase number 2 here of the Smite Global Series. Really exciting matchups that we're going to be seeing here today. Specifically, the first one, which is going to be Draco Gaming versus against Dark Hydra. A lot of interesting players in this team. They went through an interesting bracket as well.
And not to mention the fact that Draco actually lost in week number 1. So now that they're trying to make their kind of comeback potential here, see whether or not they're going to be able to finally close out a victory week for themselves.
And with the format here, we're going to be seeing the best of 3 matchup between these two teams. So once we head into picks and bets, we'll see how these teams kind of adjust to the fly. And going in with Achilles being allowed here, I'm interested to see how these teams really adapt to the situation.
It tends to be a very aggressive meta and playstyle in general, normally in Latin North, and I think that's largely due to the fact that they tend to carry over some of those similarities from the SPL in particular, and so being able to adjust those and throw them into their own playstyles, I think, makes for some pretty spicy stuff.
And it's not just Achilles that we're going to see here in picks and bans for game number 1. It's also a lot of these mid-mages that started to get risen in the meta because of how aggressive some of these assassins are. There's just too many to ban away, so a lot of these mid-mages are starting to be prioritized.
Well, they're going to focus on Humbats for starters, and Nemesis as well to follow suit out of Draco, and I like this because these two teams are already trying to ignore or get rid of some of the more controlling assassins, and same thing could be said with the Circuit elimination and Giannis.
Humbats is an interesting one. Does have a lot of control, but normally not seen very often. Normally it's the .G being banned in that position instead, but going for a very aggressive physical hunter, Hachiman, even though Soul was open.
And Hachiman, I think, is one of those first picks where he's relatively safe for the most part. Doesn't really have too punishing of a laning phase. And anytime a team is uncertain of which direction they want to take their draft, I think that you can go for some of these safer picks in the dual lane.
Well, not going to be super safe against the Ullr that might be playing very aggressive. Discordia, even though being paired up next to that Hachiman, maybe could be leaning a little bit on that passive, trying to get that extra power to help that Hachiman versus Ullr matchup.
And the Discordia Geb is a bit interesting because not a whole lot of initial pressure, at least during the laning phases. Discordia can kind of struggle sometimes using that Strife for clear and whatnot. And so she's going to definitely need a little bit more attention from Hydra's jungler. Would love to see a potentially decent pressuring jungle, not necessarily a hyper pressure early god like Thanatos or anything like that, but just something that can help out Discordia with the lane clear.
Well, early game struggles for Agni as well. Not the best god to clear in the early game. I thought for a second that maybe Ullr could have been that flex position, but with Agni locked in for Draco, I'm expecting to be pretty standard here. Sol will be the ban for Draco. Robin for Hydra. Seems that they want to take away some aggressive warriors now from Draco.
And the Robin, probably one of the more notorious warriors being used in that jungle position, has some great dive potential, which would be ideal against the Ullr and the Agni. They don't have the greatest of escapes away from that Robin, especially if he were to offer a blink. And I like that Hydra are also eliminating the Thoth as well, clearly keeping in mind that range is still a potential threat.
In Season 5, Thoth has been prioritized normally in the first pick, first ban. All these different styles of regions just goes to show that there's an internal meta within their own kind of games that they're doing behind the scenes, whether they're practicing or playing it in rank. They don't prioritize the Thoth compared to the Europe or the North America of the world. Why is that, you think?
Agreed, and I think that's partially just because of the fact that they don't want to necessarily pick a god that they're not going to have any sort of follow-up aspects for. Maybe some concerns over a lot of heavy CC and control going to be coming out from the opposing team if they try and select that Thoth early on. But it's just a little curious, though, that Hydra opted to ban it in their third and fourth phase when Agni had already been selected, and they could have maybe looked for another assassin ban like that Ratatoskr, but instead Draco's going to be able to get the Rat, and that's going to only provide better CC and setup for some of these Agni bombs.
Well, double global pressure coming out of Draco between this Ratatoskr and Athena. I'm expecting a lot of these early rotations here, potentially to the mid lane, so it's going to be very important, I feel, for the Geb to kind of sit in that mid lane, making sure Discordia is going to have an easy time.
Cerberus and Susana, though, that's a lot of control, I think. That was one of the main things that Hydra seemed to be missing, and Susano can struggle just a little bit as well during those early clearing phases, but if he's able to get some of that itemization online, the crushers, so to speak, then he'll be able to make up and compensate for that early clear lacking and basically just run rampant in the mid to late.
Well, going into the mid to late game for this game number 1, I'm excited to see how both of these drafts kind of line up as the game progresses. And looking at the two drafts here, who do you kind of give it to, Taco?
I really love Draco's draft, but it's hard to say because we've seen so much promise out of the Cerberus being flexed as like that second Guardian pick, but just the sheer initiation. So Hydra not only have a whole lot of peel coming out of this Geb, but they've also got the Cerberus, and with Beta running this Cerberus, that's going to mean that Hydra no longer have to worry about whether or not there's going to be a kickoff to their fights.
A lot of control, like you were talking about, between the Cerberus and the Geb combination. It could allow the Susanoo here, being piloted by Pehisio, just to be able to get the damage off, go to that backline, make it very difficult for Beely to be able to get those bombs off freely.
And I like that the Discordia and Susano are starting right next to each other. I think Pehisio kind of recognizing that he might need some assistance, and plus Discordia is going to be able to hit level 2 after clearing that mid wave by splitting the speed buff, and this seems to be the clear thought process for both sides, as Vili's also going to be starting with Ideal Man.
So going for this Artio in the Soul Lane, Dynadot starting up that Mage's Blessing. Gonna have that 10% cooldown reduction, obviously, when you fully evolve it, but the sustain, is it worth the trade-off not having that sustain?
Sometimes, but other times it isn't, and that's all just going to depend purely on how much poke the Cerberus can actually land. It's about connecting, and going for that Warrior's Blessing as opposed to the Mage's Blessing is a very optimal pickup most of the time for the solo laners, but as an Artio, you normally have enough sustain to where you're not as concerned.
Well, trying to compensate for the lack of sustain by going a huge amount of potions, going for the Health Chalice and 4 health potions was Dynadot, whereas the last beta on the Cerberus didn't even go for a Chalice, went 2 health potions, 1 multi-pot, he has the sustain in his kit once he jumps on those minions.
It's because Beta opted for that staff, the T1 of the staff, and whichever direction Beta chooses to go, this is still going to be a pretty heavy gold investment, and now having lost his blue buff, actually, that's going to be a huge hit to the Cerberus
That's
solo.
rough stuff. Normally, when you're playing in the solo lane, you want to kind of coordinate with what the intentions are of your jungler, and because of this early rotation to the dual lane side, Pehisio tried to make an aggressive play, couldn't really find anything, and by losing the blue buff, now this build is going to be struggling for last beta. He's trying to stay in the laning phase for as long as possible, finishing off that Warlock staff, but might have to make a premature back to base and use the teleport.
Sometimes there's only so much you can do. Speaking of which, TO gonna be able to avoid some of that follow-up poke damage. I was maybe waiting for the axe to come through, see if the Uller could further connect anything else. Instead, it's just gonna be the Blade of Arrows and the Hail of Arrows for the start. And Bezicio knows that Cerberus is in a pretty rough position right now as Danadot kind of taking advantage of the fact that the Cerberus just lost that blue buff.
And normally, I don't blame the last beta for going for this style. When you're against another Guardian versus Guardian, it's just going to be a very stagnant early game matchup. No one's really going to be looking to poke the other because the abilities this early on don't do that much damage. You're really looking for the later level abilities. Having to use those purification beats, though. Lion Show still relatively healthy, though, compared to Vampish.
Playing really aggressive as well. Even though Geb wasn't anywhere near, he was still stepping forward. Speaking of which, Susano maybe going to be getting first blood here against the Ratatasker, and Rat's going to be able to close it out, taking down Bezicio for first blood.
Just in a bad spot. Wanted to play aggressive, but got super punished. Neither jungler actually even opting for the purification beats, going for the blink and looking at more of aggression here in the dual lane. I'm expecting more action from Lion Show because he has the red buff, and there's not a red buff on the side of Vampish, even stealing one away from him.
It's a very risky invade to make still, though, considering that it was Hydra that lost of Sir Susano for first blood, and yet they're the ones still choosing to invade as Geb Discordia probably should have seen a rotation out of Draco to make up for things and potentially even punish Hydra even further.
Well, what's better, first blood here or stealing away the red buff at 3 minutes?
Probably still the first blood.
Okay.
But I think I'd still much rather have control of that red buff timer. Draco do have opportunities to punish Hydra next time they try to invade the red buff. They know that they have the timer, and they're very well aware that they're most likely going to continue to look for that invade, especially now that Bezicio is back up and running. But there's always the possibility of just outright killing Hex before he can even do anything.
That's very true. It's going to be a good target to go on here, and a little bit of more poke onto the last beta. Having the Warrior's Blessing for the sustain should keep in tow against this RDO, but once that Mage's Blessing is completed, there's going to be a lot of damage because of how ability-based this RDO is. You're getting that extra proc off of not only her Druid stance, but that Bear stance.
Speaking of which, check out that Ratatasker in the air already. Beautiful taunt, going to connect with the knockup, and that's going to be way too much damage. Lion Show's going to be
more.
First one, second one's going to be Vampish.
Great plays there, great coordination, and not respecting the global pressure. The last two picks from Draco, that Ratatasker-Athena combination there. Didn't even need to use that Defender of Olympus realistically there, but it was still a great idea to get that double dunk factor and just no place to go there. The Purification Beats was still down from Lion Show when he used it, trying to avoid some of the poke from Vampish.
Oh yeah, about 20 seconds left on those Purification Beats, and maybe just feeling a little bit too comfortable with this dual lane. It's been a pretty quiet laning phase so far, and considering that it was Hydra that managed to successfully invade Draco's red buff, that can give you that false sense of security, maybe assuming that his team was going to be providing a little bit more assistance than what they actually had to offer.
There needs to be some deep wards against this Ratatasker jungle. A defensive ward actually coming from Draco around their own purple buff. Normally, that's going to be a sentry ward just to make sure that the enemy team doesn't have vision on that side to allow your jungler to make that rotation. But, man, that side of the map is lit up like a Christmas tree from Draco.
And it has to be Lion Show going to get caught up one more time. Blade of Arrows is going to take a huge chunk of his health, but he's still trying to box, trying to take out
He wants it. He wants it. He gets it. He goes on the mounted archery. Could look to box some more. He gets the Geb shield to get out. Fighting a 1v2. That's the kind of show you want to see out of your Lion.
That was feeling like he should have died there.
Definitely, I agree.
I cannot help but feel like Juan should have been able to maybe escape. And speaking of which, that Typhoon going to end up connecting onto Ideal Man just to save him a little bit of time away.
Going for the Geb shield as well. Perfect timing. The Cataclysm has the knockup if he wanted to use it there. It does more damage the closer you are. Maybe it was still on cooldown from doing that purple buff.
What an unfortunate timing, though, out of that through the Cosmos from the Ratatasker. Normally that connects every single day of the week, but sometimes you just drop right in top of a Typhoon.
Or on top of any form of CC. Lion Show, though, gets the Geb shield, dashes away, still fighting, though, and he gets dunked on. Very surprising actions.
And even though they might have survived the first time around, Hydra actually going to end up losing. Hacks in the mid lane as well. Seemed as though Idealman was able to get off a successful gank in the mid lane.
Lion Show was out. He had boots, completed Vampish, trying to finish off the Transcendence. Hold that thought, though. Little jungle versus jungle action. Susanoo not able to really chase down the Ratatasker. But yeah, after he dashed away, he turned around trying to keep fighting, thinking that, I guess, Draco was just going to stick on the Geb.
Might have assumed that he was a little bit safer than what he actually was. Could have also just thought that he was dead no matter what.
Oh no, these pillows are turning into bricks filled instead of the feathers in the solo lanes. This is where some of the damage starts to get online for both of these gods. Artio and Cerberus sitting at level 8, but more importantly is this Mage's Blessing for Dynadot is starting to really show the power. Even with last beta, having this Warrior's Blessing, it's just not enough. He doesn't have it fully evolved, so he doesn't get that extra protections.
He also doesn't have a
He got
Warlock
soloed.
staff, and
He just got soloed under his own tower.
that doesn't surprise me considering how low he was underneath that T1 tower line already. But here's the best part. Now it's going to leave open the pathway for Draco to try and invade on this blue buff with the assistance of the Geb. They're going to make sure to still secure that one for beta, so he'll be more than happy about that. Cataclysm coming through. Typhoon going to follow up next. He might not be able to ult away in time.
Oh,
No!
the taunt. Here comes the Defender of Olympus. A double kill for Dealman. Needs to worry about the Strife, barely off the mark. I feel that was a slight misplay from Susanoo by not teleporting to his jet stream in between those basic attacks. He just needed one or two more, but granted, that Defender of Olympus, man, mitigating so much damage.
Auto attack canceling is a large part of Susanoo's kit, and there's a pretty significant difference between when you're able to successfully land those auto attack cancels and when you don't.
Going to be a good look now because they found the solo kill and then they found 2 additional kills after attempting to go for that blue buff invade. A little caught in no man's land. It's going to be Juan, but right next to him is Vampish, stunning out Lion Show. Right around the corner is Billy, and this is the danger zone if you're dealing with an Agni. These little corridors where he can easily bomb stun.
Speaking of which, Draco's still not done quite yet, and it seems as if Ratatasker wants to maybe proxy the wave. No, he's going to be just having a couple of connection issues here, it seems, so that's rather unlucky. But like the good sports they are, Dark Hydra not going to mess with this rat, but what's really unfortunate is that the blue buff, or the creeps I should say, are being held out of the lane for Vampish to now
Vampish trying to hit the axe, not on the mark. There's a huge brawl in the dual lane between these two, really trying to prove one another of what they got. Vampish going for the Uller, trying to combat this first pick Hachiman. The Gev Shield going to come through while the purple buff gets secured. Great patience here from T0. Just securing that purple buff, respecting that Lion's going to be the one zoning. Normally it's the other way around. The Hunter securing the purple, and you have your Guardian zone.
Every now and then, that's just okay to reverse the roles, but nothing wrong with that. Whatever gets the job done best, and in this case, it was just Hydra not necessarily needing the DPS out of Lion Show to confirm those.
Well, Draco Gaming is up 8-1 at the 10-minute mark. Just going to wait a little bit for this Ratatasker to come back into the game here. And honestly, this double global pressure is really starting to show its power.
The taunt especially, into pulling up like one or more members into that Through the Cosmos at the same exact time as that Defender of Olympus coming through makes it really difficult to avoid a lot of this easily secured damage. I can't say that it's 100% confirmed, but it seems as though Draco are having a much easier time in ensuring that they land all of their abilities as opposed to that of Hydra.
And how do you fight that, this double global pressure coming out of Draco? How do you mitigate some of the follow-up from the taunt?
Wards will definitely help, having a little bit more vision. It seems as though most of the map is being lit up in Draco's favor, but on top of that, you can also just try and play a little bit more defensively based. Hydra have been fairly aggressive so far, and I think they just need to create more spacing between each other. Still staying close enough, of course, to where they can catch a Geb shield if necessary, but other than that, they should really never be as closely grouped as what they have been. They've been tending to collapse on top of each other for that extra boost of security and confidence with the team, and it usually ends up working against them.
Solo lane still going to get bullied out here as the last beta. You can just sense that Dynadot wants to be aggressive here. Already got the Cerberus down to about half health. He will sustain a little bit from the Warrior's Blessing that is now fully evolved. The taunt slightly off the mark. The dash was perfectly timed there to avoid it.
That's what has to happen. Anytime you see that Athena poke her head through and you don't want to have to end up wasting your purification beads, usually best to just try and disengage as quickly as possible. Speaking of which, Vampish looking for the axe, but isn't going to connect onto Lion Show. He'll be safe for the moment, able to keep up with that creep.
Well, as my good friend Michael Scott would say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I don't mind Vampish trying to go for it because he hits the second one, forced the Geb Shield and the beads. A little bit of a panic here coming out of Lion Show, not really trusting his support, or just more of a panic.
Just a bit surprising as well. Normally at this level of play, you've got the communications with your team, so you don't necessarily have to worry about those small little missteps, but that's going to be a cooldown that Draco are going to be able to keep in mind for the future.
Billy gonna get zoned out here by the Discordia. Sitting at level 12 here, this Agni has been quietly farming away, making his presence felt whenever necessary, having those 2 assists. And with Dealman still disconnected, unfortunately, it's going to be a 4-on-5 for Draco Gaming for the meantime, really trying to basically play defense until that jungler can fix his issues.
And the real downside is that Pejecillo all the while has just been farming, no problem, no contest, so not gonna have any issues there. But Lion Show not gonna be able to connect, just barely missing out on a solo kill against Vampish, and a lot of control from this Hachiman.
Just the first pick material from Dark Hydra really goes to show that Lion Show is very confident with this pick, knows the ins and outs of the damage potential, the range of the Heavenly Banner, and the range of the Strife into the Unruly Magic. Billy 4, you're going to get poked out, forced to back. That could be a small window to do Gold Fear. But now with Dealman back in the game, the Ratatasker is online.
He's already lost his lead, though, to Pejecillo, so he's going to have to do a lot of catching up now to try and even things back out again. Bit unfortunate still, of course, because anytime you build up a 2-level plus lead and then you disconnect for that long, there's not anything you can really do about it except for hope that your team manages to continue the same sort of success factors that they were finding at the start.
Still having more net worth, though, than Pejecillo. He doesn't have the same amount of experience as level 12 was first for the Susanoo, so he will be able to get that second relic upon the back, but still expecting this global pressure to be in effect from Dealman, especially in this duo lane.
And now Lion Show gonna get taunted in, but won't need too much more poke after that. A nice Geb Shield gonna make sure to get him away from any danger. He's only got about 25 seconds left too until those purification beads are back up and running, so probably just gonna wait it out in the lane until those are back up.
Small window of opportunity, not gonna be exploited because their rotation is all in the mid lane. Even Vampish making his presence felt there. It's gonna be a taunt onto the Geb here, and right around the corner is gonna be the Ratatasker. He's gonna slow and force out the Cataclysm knockup as well, but without an escape, Billy 4, you actually got zoned out in mid lane.
And now he's going to use the Ratatasker ultimate just in case. Geb Shield should be coming back up pretty soon here, though, but they've got a new target in mind now.
Right.
They're trying to collapse onto Pejecillo instead, but it's just mayhem.
But in the backside, Lion Show making his presence felt, taking out Dealman, not having the escape. Unruly Magic through the wall is going to bounce around. Vampish taking a lot of poke here. The ultimate from Lion Show is not available. Strife will catch out the Athena, but she still had her dash. It's going to be a little bit of a wash now after Dealman faded away.
And Billy going aggressive against Hax. Surprised that Hax was hovering around with such little mana. Billy, though, clearly still concerned that Lion Show might have been hovering around that mid lane section, so he just opted to farm out the wave as the solo lane continues to be a one-man show.
Oh yeah, Dynadot is just absolutely dominating this matchup now with the Void Stone completed, and it was actually the last beta that was rushing out that Warlock staff. He was able to get the tier 1. Hold that thought though, Billy 4, you needs to disengage here, but the Athena ultimate buying him another secondary life.
Won't be able to escape this one. Vampish is going to Goomba stop right on top of his noggin for the kill on the Uller. Going to be his 3rd one of the game, and now all eyes on the Lion Show. Still doesn't have that ultimate to run away. Gonna use
the damage is there from a distance. Vampish connects on both of his long-range pokes. He's going to be able to find the stun onto the Geb. Cataclysm is available. Needs to find the stun, but did not have the cooldown. It will be a 2-for-0 at the end of the day. Dynadot trying to get this tower here. He has the minions available to him, so a lot of gold going to go to Draco once they get both middle and the solo tier 1s.
And Dynadot just completely ignoring last beta entirely, looking purely for the poke potential, or looking purely for the tower, excuse me, is now a nice stun. Going to make sure that he avoids any further kill potential that Beta might have had there.
Well, now that Beta has completed his own Void Stone, he's really going to be able to fight back now. With a passive from Cerberus being able to not only mitigate some of the healing, but stealing some of the healing, Dynadot, every time he's looking for that sustain, it's going to help out last Beta. They're both kind of racing towards that Warlock staff stacks, but Dynadot finished it first. He managed to bully Beta out so many times in the earlier portion that he was able to not only complete it, but also finish stacking.
I think that was just also largely due to all of the pots in the health chalice that Dynadot had early on in comparison to Beta, who was relying way too heavily on being able to have his own blue buff. And so losing that just made things almost impossible for him in the early game.
And Dynadot already finished Mage's Blessing Evolution when there was only 12 stacks on the Warriors, forced to go into the mounted archery just to avoid the potential stun. Trading ulti for ulti, not the end of the world here. Lion Show would definitely take that trade every day of the week.
I think I could say the same, though, for Draco, because forcing out the Hachiman ultimate when Lion Show has probably been having the most success on his team is by far one of the better ways, I think, to help shut down some of that team morale, because they clearly haven't given up in this one yet at all. And
definitely
speaking
not.
Of which, it's a 1v1 matchup between these two hunters.
Oh,
but
it's
not a
never
1v1.
a 1v1 in the dual lane. Stun will come into effect, forcing out the Aegis for the meantime. Cataclysm trying to body block. Successful rotation coming out of T0. They could look for more if they really wanted to. They don't have to worry about that Ratatasker ultimate.
It was the panic beats, I think, as Lion Show going to try and get some of the sustain going, but look who's made his way
The
back
shield
around.
is so good. The stun also onto the Athena, almost finding the kill. I love the play from Dark Hydra, staying in the lane because of the Devil Gloves, trying to get the lifesteal online, but now it's Pehesia that gets stunned out between a rock and a hard place.
And Dynadot started rotating. This is the main problem. Typhoon going to come through and it's going to get 2 knockups, forcing out the purification using the rat as Hacks makes sure to get the double kill.
Lion Show dashes in offensively in the jungle, still playing aggressive, forcing a lot of disengagements here as Juan dashes away into the mix. Is going to be Hacks' Discordia strifing Dynadot in place. Here comes the Stygian Torment, no CC immunity, so much damage, make it 3 for nothing.
All of this riding off the bat of that amazing outplay from Lion Show and T0. If it wasn't for those two surviving through the initial aggression from Juan and Vampish, that would have very easily been a team fight in favor of Draco. And now, because of that, it's going to be the Gold Fury being looked at next. But
Vampish, he has vision. He's trying to get it, not successful. Dark Hydra will confirm the first Gold Fury at 18.5 minutes. And honestly, this gold is basically even, but the experience tells a slightly different tale.
And just talk about a turnaround experience. Speaking of which, Lion Show going to get taunted in one more time, but Vamp is just getting torn apart by these Eagle Eye autos.
It doesn't seem that this is the time to fight if you're Draco. It's purely defensive time. They're getting bullied under their own tier 1 tower. Hitting the shots from a distance, but keep in mind, Lion Show has Devil Gloves. He's sustaining very well here.
And Vampish recognizing that, but it's going to be caught up instead in the Cataclysm. Juan still trying to run away, but
Rat
they've lost track of the
ultimate.
rat.
He waits out the dash, Gep Shield, and the mounted archery just to keep himself alive, but now barely able to roll away from all of the danger, even gets off the secondary part, but can't say the same for Lion Show. Second time this game that he just stuck his nose where it didn't belong.
And Lion Show really should have just backed off the whole way through. Typhoon, though, going to make sure to clean up. Juan and Vampish both end up falling in the end, so sure, they might have been able to kill Hydra's ADC, but they're going to lose their own and the support to boot.
2 for 1 at the end of the day. Still looking for more, though. Probably not now regretting his positioning here, trying to poke around that purple buff. Still Discordia forcing out the Aegis from Billy, avoiding the bomb stun. Forced to use the beats here. Strife is completely off the mark. Now having to deal with this Ratatasker man as he gets slowed here. Actually avoiding that cloud. He doesn't care about the cooldowns. He wants to get to the Geb a little bit closer to receive that shield.
I think Ideal Man spotted out something was going on. Going to use another Geb to get away. Sprint's going to come through as well, and that's going to be it to get Hacks out of there. But Dynadot now being aggressed on. T0 and the Cerberus, so not a chance of taking down this tanky RDO.
Man, both of these teams just love to fight against each other here. 12 to 8 the kills in 21 minutes of play. Almost looking at 1 kill per minute, and both of these hunters specifically loving to fight.
I think the main problem here, though, is that Draco are still playing as though this is the first 7 minutes of the game for them. They had a huge lead, sure, but after that disconnect, they never really tuned things back a notch, and they kind of needed to.
That's very true. Sitting at 6-2-4 is the Ratatasker that disconnected, I think, at about 5-0-0 when he was a part of a lot of kills there. But now 2 levels behind Pehesio that's able to just really get the better end of it with this 2-level lead. That Typhoon is definitely going to be doing significantly more damage.
Another thing, too, is that Ideal just spent so much time trying to make ganks happen in the duo lane. And
another one. The taunt from a corner. Lion Show doesn't have the Geb around him, but he does have that mounted archery still. Around the corner, though, up in the sky, through the cosmos. Steelman needs to land, but he's just not in range. He's going to disengage instead.
He saw all 4 members grouping up out of Hydra, and that would be enough to push anyone away, I think, from the dive there.
Honestly, I would risk it for the biscuit. I got an Athena ultimate to bail me out. I got my beads and my blink. I'm going to go for that 100 and a 5-on-4 advantage. Maybe get a tier 1 tower afterwards.
Considering that the Gold Fury is already down, it probably would have been a relatively safe dive to commit to, but hesitation. We've seen it get the better end of teams for years, even in Smite, and it just seems to be coming a little bit into play here now.
2v2 on the left. Meanwhile, there's a 3-on-3 around the Pyromancers. Draco Gaming is thinking about going in a Cataclysm, forcing out Vampish to disengage with the Purification Beads. Little skirmish here around the Pyromancer. Last beta zoning away Billy, trying to get all the poke out. And more importantly, he's baiting himself out on purpose to absorb the Agni Bomb so that his squishies don't take it instead.
Oh, he just ate all that damage and doesn't even seem like it. Stone of Gaia going to make sure to regen last beta at full health, no problem, no questions asked. And all that health from the evolved Warlock staff now, plus the Void Stone, is just making last beta an incredibly difficult target to handle now.
He struggled early on, but he's hit that power spike that really shows off the stride for the Cerberus. Does a lot of damage here now that he's sitting at level 20. He's more importantly going to be setting up the Discordia for more damage with a Ghastly Breath, just reducing the magical protection. At this rank, it reduces it by 14 per tick, stacking up to 3 times. So you're just getting 42 natural magical penetration for your whole team.
Which is exactly what you'd want if you have the single target burst composition that I think Hydra does have a ton of. And what's crazy is that they've also introduced a little bit of the AoE control factor because of the Cerberus ultimate and because of that Geb Cataclysm. Those 2 ults combined are more than enough engage and disengage potential. But I just love the burst possibilities between the Discordia and Susano as well.
Look at this item, though, coming from T027 on the Geb. He's getting that Stone of Binding here.
Stone of Binding, yes.
And this is something that we don't normally see often on a support. Normally you see this on like Kabrak and Soul Lane that's going to be able to penetrate that backline, set up the CC, but every time that T0 is going to go in with that Blink Cataclysm, he's now enabling the rest of his team to get that 10 additional penetration. Gold Fear, though, from Draco Gaming, not even contested. Dark Hydra was caught slipping.
I don't think any of them would have ever suspected that Draco were actually pulling the Gold Fury. That's what a lack of vision can do. It can lull you into a false mindset that the enemy team, there's no way those guys are taking the Gold Fury right now.
There's definitely not. But that was all the vision control there. Sentry wards galore coming out of Draco Gaming right in front of the Gold Fury. A little bit of a skirmish there in the Cosmos. Is going to be Dealman looking at that prime target. Stygian Torment not connecting onto anybody as Typhoon zones away. Everyone's just kind of skirmishing around like a little bit of a cockroach.
A full 5-man grouping now. Antonio looking for a 2-man taunt. Is able to get it. Pulls out the Purification Beads as well. And all eyes onto T0 as he's trying to run away.
3-man Cataclysm was good. And here comes the follow-up. Dynodot is zoning out 4 in the backline. Now Last Beta is turning his attention. First victim will be the Ardio, which would felt like about a 30-second engagement. Last Beta now is going to be trying to continue the action here, zoning away additional members. Having to back away is Billy, and with this 5-on-4 advantage for 45 seconds, could open the door for the Pyro.
Dynodot just going way too deep there without the rest of his team to follow up. That was the difference, is that Hydra, yes, they're also still attacking the backline of Draco, but they're grouped up. They're all together and trying to help peel for each other, provide some support. in that situation, it was all Dynadot trying to be the star of the show, it seemed, and just coming up short.
Both supports had great engages, the taunts and the cataclysm, but still engaging in a 4-on-5. The double bombs coming out of this Agni is just so impactful. Lion Show, though, getting a double kill, barely able to escape with their life as Bejesio and Hacks T027 trying to disengage still for himself. And they could still actually look for some more poke here. Dashing back in with a jet stream. They're finding another one, but finally getting another kill for themselves. It's a 3-for-1.
At least they were able to trade it out. But check out how deep Lion Show is now gone. Going to be looking at these back harpies, and Juan knows that Dynadot is just around the corner. Lion Show may be suspecting that somebody else from Draco is bound to turn up if he doesn't get out right now.
Gotta respect the potential engage here between these two Guardians. Definitely doing a lot of damage as the game progresses. This level 20 Artio with the Warlock Staff and the Void Stone. It's nothing to really scoff at, especially if you're going to be the Hunter here. Right around the flank corner. There's only 2 melee minions right around here. Going to successfully get it, but no Thorns available to be able to win this matchup.
Not sure that he needs it based off the damage that he's able to deal, and Lion Show doesn't have that ultimate available. He's just going to have to brawl this one purely, and now that's going to do it. Dynadot making sure to take out Lion Show for that one-way syndrome.
And taunting for just good measure. The taunt onto Hacks. It's a 3-on-1. They are trying to get onto the Goddess of Strife and will find their second victim through the Cosmos. They want the third one. They cancel out the Geb ultimate. The rollout, rather, make that. The shield coming out as well. Vampish looking to line up the stun here, but I don't think he's going to get in position.
It's a Geb, and there's a Cataclysm, and that should be enough to do it here. Can't imagine that Draco are going to pressure to look for the Geb kill so much as they will this T1 tower now, since 2 members from Hydra are still dead.
5-on-3 for 20 seconds, still waiting for Lion Show. Tier 1 tower in the mid is being aggressed on while the dual lane was already secured by Vampish. Going for the Tier 2, they have an additional wave here, dealing 140 damage per shot, but the teleport coming through is going to keep the tower alive for the moment.
Very necessary teleport as well. Much better to utilize that from Beta and make sure they don't lose the T2 tower as opposed to trying to invest more into that T1 defense in middle. And without a Hunter there to help secure that T1, Draco are only going to be able to successfully strip away that tower in duo.
500 gold is still better than nothing. Still a pretty long game considering that it's still very even now. And that experience gap for 7,000 is meaningless now that everybody's sitting at level 20. This is just going to be one remaining team fight to open the door for the Fire Giant. Neither team really wanting to pull the trigger around there quite yet. Despite having a 5-on-3 advantage, Dark Hydra, I felt, or just, sorry, Draco Gaming could have definitely did more with that. They could have committed all their eggs into one basket that either should have all went duo, all went mid, or all went Fire Giant, but instead they waffled a little bit and only got 500 gold.
Speaking of which, Hack's gonna get taunted in. A beautiful burst of damage by Billy's just gonna make sure to take him down and out for the count, sitting up in those through the Cosmos, looking for another target to land on. It's gonna be Lion Show, but Ideal Man's already so
running
poked out.
away. Lion Show trying to survive. Typhoon being used defensively to peel for his Hunter. Diving the Tier 1. It's gonna be Juan finding the top, but where's the follow-up? Juan was the one that got targeted instead. Make that 2 for Vampish now, finding the kill onto Bejesio. It's a 2-for-2. Tier 1 mid falling, still aggressing in the backline. Last Beta, not going to get Agni Bombs on. Beautiful triple knockup, but it might have cost him his life.
And everybody's going to focus onto this Geb now. They're all trying to run away. Billy going to claim another one onto Lion Show. Vampish is going to take out the Geb.
Is this a deicide? Is this going to be the deicide? It is going to be the deicide for Draco Gaming. This opens the door for the objectives.
The T2 tower, no doubt, going to end up falling here. And
Mid Phoenix has definitely got to be the play here, Taco. There's so much time now. Keep in mind, Discordia has just now revived, but 188 a shot. There's no time for the Goddess of Strife to create any sort of confusion.
Surprised that Dynadot risked his life there that heavily, though. If he'd ended up dying for that Phoenix, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, but definitely would have been a bit of a pain. Because right now, Draco can spend all that gold that they just acquired and then immediately look to try and seize this Fire Giant.
Now, Draco did a great job creating a lot of havoc and confusion in that team fight. As soon as Dealman went into the sky, it was an instant mounted archery from Lion Show. So he was basically playing on the defensive back foot the entire time while the rest of his team was trying to fight 4-on-5, and I think that's what kind of led to the success for Draco.
Well, what I can't understand is why Hydra split up so much in the first place. They were perfectly grouped up and had enough of a strong counter engagement that they should have been fine. It's just that when they broke apart from each other, they lost a lot of that team fighting synergy that they've been relying on for their previous successful team fights, and so that was just going to make the pickings easy for Draco.
I think it's just the ability damage. The taunt from the Athena onto the Geb, getting locked into place. Let alone here, Vampish gets credited with that kill. You cannot be that far away without being with a little bit of a leash. That's what you want to have out of your Guardians or solo laners. Make sure that somebody's within close proximity, but with this taunt or with the zoning from Dynadot from so far away, the first Fire Giant of the game will be secured by Draco. 31.5 minutes in. 5-on-4 for another 30 seconds while Geb's about to respawn. It could allow them to at least get the tier 2 towers.
And what's tough is normally when the first Fire Giant in the game goes down, there isn't already a Phoenix missing. That mid lane Phoenix having been taken away by Draco before the Fire Giant was even secured just means that Hydra are going to have to consistently worry about those fire creeps and sending a member to clear those out, which is going to give Draco a little bit of an opening here to work
Through
with.
the Cosmos, Dealman up in the sky. Who's the target? Not going to connect, but the focus and the attention is all on the Phoenix. Dive in the backlines, last beta, pulling in one Unruly Magic, zoning out from the distance there, but it's on to be the zoning coming out of Dynadot. Dealman, though, will fall for the first victim.
And now Draco actually falling a little bit lower than they wanted to, I think, as Hax is going to make quick work of Vampish with that Strife. Now it's the Geb trying to help catch out the Ardio, and the Ardio is so split apart from everyone else on his team. Dynadot just trying to get away, and Lion Show looking to cut him off.
But it's mission accomplished thus far. They got the middle Phoenix that, or the mid and the right Phoenix that they really wanted to. Strife connecting, Knockup connecting. The 4-4-0 crit from Lion Show will secure that last hit. Very important to find that third kill. The question is, what can Dark Hydra get from this? Because the respawn timers are long, yes, but they need to get through all these tier 2 towers before entering for the first Phoenix.
And it's not even answering just for one Phoenix now, it's answering for two. For Draco, sure, they lost the fight after the fact, but that doesn't change that they managed to still secure 2 Firebirds out of Hydra, which means that their base is super vulnerable right now, and there's still a T2 tower standing for Hydra in that dual lane, and one more Phoenix to work through, and the mid Phoenix should also be respawning pretty shortly here, but that doesn't really affect, I think, Draco from being able to secure the next Fire Giant as well.
That's true. It's respawning here momentarily in about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Plenty of time for them to really regroup their efforts and go for more towers if they really wanted to. I believe it's Juan and Dealman that survived. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Billy and Juan that survived that last engagement, so they could definitely still look for more siege damage. That Agni bomb stunts is just enabling them so much zoning. Dark Hydra needs to be worried, obviously, about the Agni to bomb those squishies, but doing a good job was last beta, zoning for as long as possible. But on the opposite side, Draco zoning a little bit too hard. They fell too quickly, I think, for that engagement.
It's just because of how much Phoenix damage Dynadot ate. Again, he was pretty overextended, I would say, trying to specifically focus out zoning Lion Show away from the fight. And sure, he managed to pull the beads and the Aegis out of the Hachiman, but is it really worth it in the long term?
Doesn't feel that way as he eats 2 bombs through the wall. Hacks needs to be careful. Through the Cosmos, the taunt onto the last Lion Show. They're dashing in aggressively. Billy is forcing out the Geb shield, but without the dash, he's in a lot of trouble. He forced to use the Aegis, but diving him, the Susanoo in the backline gets one, while Lion Show gets Ideal Man. Paisio finding out Vampish, trying to go for that middle Phoenix, but without any members, it's going to be 4 members once Juan dies.
That was just way too sloppy of an engagement from Draco, and it felt a little bit lazy and
It was forced. Yes, it was definitely forced there. Billy did not need to dash in aggressively as an Agni. Allow your frontliners to set you up for that play. And now it's only Dynadot trying to defend here. The middle Phoenix did respawn, but there's all the fire waves are already eliminated. There is no fear of that middle Phoenix falling yet again.
And one more time.
Look at the left side Phoenix, though, for Dark
There's a
Hydra.
lot
There's
of
a
creeps
lot
there.
of minions there.
Someone needs to
That's
clear
gone. That Phoenix is absolutely gone. Nobody's there to defend it. The minions are going to keep on hitting it, trying to go in for this middle Phoenix with the minions under tow, but it's going to be Dynadot zoning for as long as he possibly can. Not long enough, though.
And they're going to luck out, actually, with that creep wave having spawned in the nick of time, but Dynadot just getting torn apart. The ghastly breath, I think, from the Cerberus is the main reason why we don't see those protections coming as heavily into play here for the RDO. And Lion Show kind of just having his way now. He's been free casting for the last few team fights in the back end, and Dynadot really has to stop tunneling for this Hachiman and focus on working around his carries.
Well, the Lion Show having this Deathbringer and the Wind Demon means that you want to kind of sit on him once you have the Thorns and the Hide of the Nemean Lion, but I'm seeing one and not the other. Vampish, though, casually just walks in 1v3, diving into the backline onto Lion Show, finding out the second one as well. It's Last Beta that's going to be the secondary target here. He needs to survive the strife from the corner. Bombs as well for Draco. Will find their third victim. It's a 3-for-1.
They might have gotten 3 kills, but they lost their hunter. They need Vampish to have some of this objective push potential, and now that it's their mid-Phoenix that's been taken away, I don't think that Ideal Man wants to try and risk getting within melee range. Still enough control between the Discordia and the Gib, I think, to buy Hydra enough time for Pehisio to respawn and help with the defense. So they're going to look for the Pyromancer. It's the next best thing they can get. But I don't think they can even really pull the Fire Giant.
No, definitely not. Without the Hunter, it's going to make things a little bit tricky, but they're definitely going to try here. Around the corner is going to be T027, but he's actually backing. I don't think that he either knows that this is happening or that he doesn't care to even stop it. Not going to be risking that, because if both of them die, now you're separating the respawn timer even further, allowing the window for Draco to confirm these Phoenixes. And at the 37.5 minute mark, getting this Fire Giant is going to be the enhanced one, the 30% additional structure damage.
They should have waited. There's no reason
Vampish?
not to wait for Vampish. He had about 6 seconds left before he respawned, and with no one from Hydra even remotely interested in contesting that Fire Giant, you might as well wait for that buff to be applied to your Hunter as well.
Well, not going to be able to be patient enough for that one. Draco Gaming can still have the advantage there, considering that Billy having the Fire Giant will just absolutely tear and melt through those frontliners. There's plenty of magical defense on the side of Dark Hydra if they really wanted to still hold out here. But honestly, these bomb stones and then the addition of the global pressure from Dealman really discombobulates Dark Hydra from successfully defending, unless Draco are going to keep forcing the issue.
That's all that Billy really needs to be looking for, though, is the poke damage. The Obsidian Shard, the perfect pickup in this situation, because there is a ton of magical defense being built for Hydra. Clearly concerned about some of that damage output from Billy.
The stun from a distance will connect onto Dealman. Cataclysm onto 4. In the backline is going to be Last Beta as well. Through the Cosmos, though, going to connect only onto Last Beta. Doggo gets knocked up and walks away.
And now everybody's still getting controlled by the Discordia. Lion Show and Hacks are so far pushed up, but Ideal Man's going to be the first to fall. Dynadot still tanking up this Phoenix, and for no reason,
the jet stream, he teleports as well. Knockup is good against the wall. Dynadot between a rock and a hard place yet again. Ghastly Breath will be all the attention onto the Bears. Second dead member from Draco Gaming, and they just can't find the Phoenixes even with Fire Giant buff around their waist. Vampish trying to jump over. He gets interrupted with the knockup. Jetstream connects, but the teleport was used a little bit too prematurely.
And that jump is going to be able to save Vampish for the moment, but the same can't be said for Juan, as Pehisio going to get the killing blow onto the Athena. And now things are...
Can they end? The Mid Phoenix is exposed. They're going to try for it. All 5 members are standing strong. It's Billy and Vampish trying to hold down the fort for Draco Gaming. Agni Bomb Stones will be impactful here, but it's not going to be connecting onto the right targets.
And Pehisio with some nice poke damage there onto Billy. That one wasn't too premature, as he's going to make sure to follow up with the teleport.
Discordia, Golden Apple bouncing around. They're not connecting onto Vampish, but Pehisio will find the double kill, but not until Ideal Man respawns and avenges his teammates. Middle Phoenix falling here. And what is it with these teams split pushing? Right side, Lion Show not committing to the siege. They could have probably gotten that Phoenix so much quicker and then gone for the end.
They definitely could have ended had they been grouped up, but sometimes hindsight is 20/20, and in this situation, it bodes true. A Lion Show, I think, feeling as though his team would have definitely been able to secure that mid Phoenix no problem, especially after you watch his 2 beautifully executed kills happen by the Susano. You're sort of anticipating that your team is going to be A-okay there, and well, they take the mid Phoenix again, but now it's going to be another Fire Giant dance potentially, and Hydra haven't really defended against the last 2 Fire Giants. They have not seemed as interested in this objective, and for good reason, considering how split apart Draco are on practically every single one of their base sieges. There's no real reason for Hydra to have any concern.
Taco, these teams are so even, 27-26. They're trading out Phoenixes and their lives left, right, and center. Neither one of them can end. What is it going to take for either one of these teams to find the final nail in the coffin?
Dynadot just has to stop overextending. It's been the main reason why Draco just keep consistently losing team fights that should probably be way more heavily in their control, especially after you watch that Cerberus and Gebolt be used so early on before they're even fully committing to the Phoenix.
Strife is going to poke out Dynadot a little bit there. Billy was not in range to connect those Agni Bomb Stones to return the auxiliary fire. Still going to disengage here for the moment. It's going to be defense for Draco Gaming. It's not a very common theme for them to be playing defense, at least in this game. But Dark Hydra finding some momentum under their belt here with Pehesio honestly just being able to get into that backline very cleanly with that jet stream.
I think that's the main difference between the
Oh
Ratatosker.
no, Dealman. Look at all that poke.
It's the Ratatosker and the Susano. Speaking of which, nice blink Cataclysm
Gone!
to make the end of Billy there.
Just absolutely eliminated. Dynadot will get chased down as well. Strive keeping the bear in place now going into the Celtic farm. Dynadot is going to get stunned out and taken out with a Typhoon. Lion Show gets credit for that one. It's a 5-on-3 for plenty of time. Middle Phoenix is exposed. Titan is going to be exposed here as Dark Hydra going into the throne room.
Hydra just wanted Draco to think that they were on the Fire Giant so that they'd push up a little bit outside of their base, and that's all that they needed.
Off the mark, through the Cosmos, off the mark, and that's going to be a 3rd dead member from Draco. Dark Hydra are knocking and blasting through the door here. Vampish forced to disengage. Titan will be focused from Dark Hydra, and finally, this first game in the best-of-3 set will be secured by Dark Hydra if they can just get off a little bit more damage. They're going for the kills, Taco.
They had to kill everybody first before they can end the game. That's just a classic staple, I think, sometimes in play. And man, what a comeback and what an unfortunate set, I think, already for Draco. I really feel as though game 1 probably should have gone in their favor, but between the DC and then throwing a bunch of team fights after the fact, like even when Adilman was DC, they came back and then they were just aggressive. As soon as he was reconnected, they were going way too deep, way too often, and ultimately resulted in that little bit of a lead that they still had intact, just slowly being torn apart at.
They definitely could look back at the first game and just take a bunch of notes about what advantages they had and how they could have extended it here. But going into game 2, that first game, so long here, 43 minutes, I think it was 32-26. And both of these teams had opportunities to end it, had some slippery moments, like you were mentioning before. They definitely need to reevaluate how they start entering these Phoenix Sieges, as Draco will be the ones with the first pick. Hydra looking to close out this set, and Draco trying to get into game number 3.
I don't think that the Susano was necessarily the primary issue there, as much as it was the control out of the Discordia burst towards the end there. And I think that Hachiman as well. Lion Show looked fantastic on the Hachiman. So if I'm Draco, I am certainly not going to really want to be letting Lion Show get what's probably his signature god back.
He looked really confident more than anything else on the Hachiman, and I'm expecting them to just focus him out a little bit, kind of bait him into that position where it's like, all right, there's an illusionary 1v1 battle that turns on its head in a 2v1 as Hydra secures themselves that Athena yet again. Would not be surprised if they still try to get the Cerberus here.
And I like that Hydra took away the Athena even from Draco, because that's a pick that you don't really want to see Draco being able to run back again. It was, I think, a little bit too controlling during the early game. One of the primary reasons why Hydra's dual lane was kind of suffering because of those taunts into the Ratatasker ultimates. But Draco's still wanting some global presence to match that of the Athena by introducing the Giannis into their draft.
The Robin and the Giannis. Great mobility, great aggression. Once the Robin goes in, he's going to have those portals to get out. Now, Ratatasker will be that ban from Hydra. Even though they have the Robin, they're thinking maybe that could be a solo lane Robin, not necessarily jungle, just eliminating some of those options.
Not to mention that Ratatasker could also possibly go
That's
into
true.
the solo lane, and so just not wanting to have to worry about the utility setup you can have between the Giannis through space and time and that through the Cosmos out of the Rat. I like that.
That's Athena and Cerberus paired up for Hydra yet again. That double Guardian had so much control for Hydra last game. That's probably going to be another great look for them, especially if they can pair up another global jungler here. They don't have the Ratatasker since they banned that away for themselves. Do you expect maybe a Thor here or Thanatos?
I want to see a little bit of early pressure, and without the Susano, clear emphasis onto the Susano being the ban away choice, and I think that's the main reason why the Humbats is an option now. It was banned in game 1, but now Hydra get the opportunity to run it back.
It went from a first ban to a last pick here in the second game of the Latin American North.
Maybe because of the fact that Hydra waited so long on this pick, though, that made Draco believe that they weren't potentially going to be looking for this Humbat. Sometimes teams can get a little bit frazzled, I think, during this drafting phase when wondering, you know, if they're not picking it in their first 3 when we banned it first last game, then why would they wait until the last pick to go for it?
It's very true. With this Humbats to wrap up the composition here out of Dark Hydra, that's up a game. They're going to be looking to have even more control than before. The Susanoo definitely worked out quite heavily for Pehisio once it got to the late game, managing to really make it difficult for Billy to survive as the Agni. Now playing the Giannis will have a safer time to disengage.
But this is a much different solo lane matchup than what we saw in game 1. A tier now, instead, going to be trying to deal with less beta on this Cerberus, and I'm not too certain how to feel about this matchup, Tolly.
It's going to be an interesting one, honestly. He can easily get a lot of physical protection here, even rushing it with a tier 1 breastplate. At 500 gold, you also have enough gold to purchase a health chalice, but I think that last beta just doesn't like health chalices here. He'd rather get 3 health potions and 3 multi-potions to get him through that first laning phase before the initial back. But as the time progresses, Dynadot with a health chalice of his own will just get more value out of that to keep himself more sustained throughout team fights in the mid game. But
considering the junglers are both physical junglers, this is probably still in favor of Hydra in the long run, just because Dynadot's going to be building into magical defense most likely. He's not going to be worrying about building physical procs against a Cerberus, otherwise everybody's going to think he's fried. And
that's very true.
No one does that, so a jungle gank out of the Humbats from Pehisio is probably going to do a lot more damage than what Ideal Man is going to be able to have against Last Beta.
More impactful is that mixture between physical and magical solo jungle combination. So we'll be seeing potentially more solo lane pressure from Pehisio. In the dual lane, though, still aggressive was T0 and Lion Show now going to be invading that purple while the rest of their team is invading the red here, just spectating from a corner here, not even going to secure their own. Oh no, they will secure their own red buff, and now it's going to be a lot of trouble because they did not hit level 2.
And Sprint's going to be popped here out of T0, but all eyes are on the Lion Show instead as Juan is trying to help Vampish get the secondary kill of the match, and Vampish going to make quick work of Lion Show. They're not done just yet either. Athena's still sitting at level 1, nowhere left to run either.
T0 is going to get rooted in place and taken out. 3 quick kills in less than 2 minutes worth of play, and I gotta say here, Taco, Dark Hydra, a little too ambitious and bold for their own good. They did 2 things at once instead of combining all 4 of their members to do the same task.
They just needed all 4 bodies towards that red buff. That might have been enough to push Hydra back as well, but the burst damage secure from a Robin, usually going to be better at securing some of these early game buffs. I feel as though that was a bit of an unnecessary red buff invade. They should have just focused entirely on that purple buff.
The risk versus reward is what I'm really seeing here. Pejasio got caught with his pants down. He did not hit level 2 once that red buff was stripped away from him, so he couldn't, level up the jump to disengage. His blink was not available because he was still in combat, so that was easy pickings. Draco Gaming has a very comfortable lead. They're going to be the ones that are on the offensive, but they sniff something out. They're not going to keep going forward here. But with this wave coming right around the corner, Ideal Man is going to be able to find this gank.
I think he's going to look for the Athena here as well. Lion Show being level 3 should be A-okay, and that's going to be the plan here as Vampish, one more time, the Stellar Bird is going to end up taking out T0, and he just got back to the lane.
That's very unfortunate for T0, but Lion Show will at least get some solo farm for himself, so there is some silver lining right here for the Hunter. But keep in mind, every single time that Vampish finds these kills, he's getting more and more Hunter's blessing stacks. So sitting already at 42 as opposed to the 26 from Lion Show, he's going to start swinging in about 2.5 waves before the Hachiman.
Not only that, but even if Hydra wanted to provide a little bit more pressure into the duo lane, it's going to be very difficult to do so when their solo is just getting abused, it seems. Dynadot really struggling here. Doesn't even have the ability to secure his own blue buff. Judging by the timers or the respawn timers on those buffs, it does seem as though Last Beta was able to successfully invade the tier.
It's definitely problematic when a tier doesn't have the blue buff to spam away that power cleave and defensive stance to get himself that sustain. Will reset the timer here once it was stripped away. And that's just Last Beta doing Last Beta things, playing the Cerberus, feeling very confident because this 20 physical protection not only helps him survive against the gank, but also just helps him survive in the laning phase, mitigating all this archer damage, all this melee minion damage, to the point where the melee minions are immune. You have so many defenses and a reduction in damage that they just do nothing to you.
No real surprises on that one either. And I'm also sort of expecting Last Beta to opt for those cooldown reduction boots as that first pickup again seemed as though it helped out quite a bit in the last match. And this time, he's even so far ahead that there's really no reason not to continue pressing the lead by picking up those boots.
Oh, Pejasio making the rotation happen, stripping away the blue buff yet again away from Dynadot. Can only listen behind his own blue buff as that gets taken. Very unfortunate here for this tier player. Does have the teleport available as he makes his first trip back to the base here. He will finish off the Warrior Tabi and get back to the lane A-okay. He has the full mana pool, but needs to be very efficient now with his mana pool. He can't be using that Fearless to cancel out the Ghastly Breath. He just needs to worry about clearing the wave and resetting.
But what's curious, though, is that he actually opted for 2 wards over picking up any mana potion. So a little bit more concerned about his safety over everything else. And I like that he's willing to sacrifice some farm just to have a little bit more survivability in lane.
And if you're able to ward Pejasio coming from a distance, now you're also making the intel for the rest of your team to make those adaptations. Maybe go for an early Gold Fury with Pejasio on the right side. Don't have to worry about the Fear No Evil, and then all the other damage that he can provide. So the through space and time though connects, hacks, forced to disengage, but gets chased down. Dealman finding another kill for himself, sitting at 2-0-2, really making his presence felt on this Robin jungle.
And Athena just forced to immediately back into their own jungle. That was just such a well-executed wombo combo play. Speaking of which, Dynadot gonna get pulled into the tower now, forced to use that Lawbringer to get away, and that's a bit unfortunate. That is not the way you typically want to have to use that tier ult.
Well, without his Fearless being used, that's going to be an easy pickings, honestly, for Last Beta there. And with the blue buff for himself, there's a difference of the cooldown reduction here between the Lawbringer and the Stygian Torment. Not having Breastplate of Valor completed back then, he's still going to be looking to be hyper-aggressive now, having that 20% additional cooldown reduction here. And if I'm Dynadot without any sort of mana here, you gotta be scratching your head of like, man, I'm gonna need a lot of help here from the jungle side. I'm gonna need a lot of help as T027 dashing away but can't avoid the Mystic Rush.
That's just way too much burst damage already out of this Robin, but nice little Strife gonna make sure to root Ideal Man in place, force out that overhead kick, and as a result, Lion Show will be able to retreat safely in the mid lane, but that's going to open up the doorway for Draco to just start pulling at this Gold Fury possibly.
No, they're not going to risk it here. A little bit too low was Ideal Man, not wanting to overstep their boundaries, but stripping away another blue buff against Dynadot. Sitting one level behind his opposition. Needs to be super careful because wasting any mana on poking the Cerberus is going to be meaningless. He has Breastplate of Valor completed, so much protections here, and then having the sustain. Keep in mind, Cerberus passive. Every time that defensive power cleave comes out, you're helping Last Beta top himself off.
It just feels like a lose-lose situation all around right now.
It really does.
For Dynadot. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. The only thing he really can do is continue to try and build up as much farm as possible.
Taunted in the mid lane. Ideal Man is still going to be a big old bully. He doesn't care if he's 1v2. He's going to take that damage and dish out more in return, respecting the fact that right next to him was Billy on the Giannis. Could have helped him out with some portals. Behecio poking out the Ganesh a little bit there, but not wanting to overstep quite yet. Hasn't really wanted to force any team fights, instead quietly farming away, and despite having that early death, he's actually ahead in experience in the dual lane. The Dharmic Pillars and the Fear No Evil now making the impact in the dual lane. The timing is now.
And they're still trying to find the last hit onto Vampish. Hack's going to make sure to clean him up. Nice and Scordia Apple as well to get the double kill for Hacks. And even with that through space and time, it's not going to be enough. Juan doesn't really have too much of a retreat factor, so he's just going to take a random portal that Billy left for him. But they really needed Billy there, I
That's
think.
very true. And Ideal Man's Mystic Rush just came off of cooldown after he died. So unfortunate for Aravan not having your natural escapes available to you. And that was very important picks now. And Behecio, like I was mentioning before, he got ahead experience-wise, Lawbringer over the top, but still being secure. That Paralyzing Spit does so much damage once you connect all 4 projectiles. But as I was saying, Behecio, because of how good he was doing farming, now that he found the kill onto Ideal Man, he's even going to be further ahead.
And that's just problematic. The fact that Ideal Man has been a part of 6 kills, but doesn't really seem to be efficiently farming for his opposition to have managed to surpass him in terms of experience. And Last Beta going to use that Stygian Torment, but won't be able to wrap up Ideal Man in it. So that's just going to be an ultimate for nothing pretty much, but it was mostly just to try and prevent Ideal Man and Dynadot from invading that blue buff, I think.
It's very true. The blue buff, I believe, was secured here from Behecio as he did make that rotation happen. So it is on the ground for him to pick up, and the dual lane Lion Show gets locked down and under the Supernova from Vampish, his 4th kill of the game. This soul is absolutely on fire here with this Bancroft's talent doing so much work for her.
Last time around, it was all about Lion Show on this Hachiman, and game number 2, it's been Vampish, actually, as one of the more standout players for Draco Gaming here, sitting at 4-1-1, clearly been helping out quite a bit off of these heavy focus towards the dual lane, and it's exactly what you want to see out of the Soul. Having the Bancrofts as well, just going to make it even more difficult to try and pin down Vampish because of his sustain and survivability.
And it's a 2-level lead now between these two hunters. I could easily see more action here in the dual lane. Again, Dynadot really wasting his mana here against the Cerberus. That's going to solo him after the jump. That's the unexpected damage from the Paralyzing Spit. You set up that extra damage by stripping away the protections, and then you get the last hit just like that. Last Beta really catching Dynadot off guard with that damage.
Even with the tier passive, it still wasn't enough to get away from that Paralyzing Spit stun, and huge chunk of his health as well. That's just the kind of experience and level disparity that you're expected to see in Behecio now. Going to force out the Purification Beads from Billy, and that was also the Giannis through space and time.
Yep. Not going to have himself that any possibility as Dealman is forced to run away. Paralyzing Spit almost connecting there. The blue buff will be secured finally for Dynadot, so he will be able to spam some of his abilities. But his build with the Stone of Gaia, he only had it at tier 2 when he got solo, so he didn't have that extra 200 health or so. And without any sort of magical protections, okay, 15 from Warrior's Blessing, but the 60 penetration shred coming from Galaxy Breath, you're doing true damage at that point.
The Stone of Gaia seems a little bit irrelevant here. over anything else. And not to mention that Behisio on the Humbats now has plenty of damage with that Crusher to really make an impact should he choose to gank the solo lane. Although it'll be pretty unlikely for him to gank there, just because what's the point when your solo laner is already doing such a phenomenal job by themselves?
I'd almost like to see a Spirit Robe, honestly, out of him, trying to get both physical and magical defense, or maybe even Height of Urchin, just to cover both options. But hold that thought, though. Behisio trying to jump away, gets silenced in return, looking for the engage back, but he teleports to the third hit and smacking the Gold Fury.
Yeah, that was a nice 248 crit, though, onto the Gold Fury.
Could have been more useful on an enemy god, no?
Would have easily been way more useful if he'd been able to connect that onto Ideal Man. But Ideal Man also using that overhead kick, probably expecting that he would get caught up in it.
The portal, the unstable vortex, the double portals connecting. The through space of time is available if Billy wanted to go for it, but being that far away, you have plenty of time to really see the projectile and then just juke it one way or another. And by using that ultimate, you're actually proccing Stone of Gaia. Dharmic Pillars coming out, keeping T0 in place. Tell me if you heard that one before. Making the rotation is Behisio, but he can't connect the monkey bounces to chase him through the portal.
Way too many missed abilities, I think, from Hydra. I liked their initiative there, but they've got to connect more than just their first taunt if they want to try and make a serious impact in that team fight.
That was just Draco being super hyper-aggressive with the Dharmic Pillars. Now trying to get the gold here and extend their advantage. It's going to be Juan zoning out. Mystic Rush up and down will confirm it just for good measure here. In the solo lane, still struggling a little bit. Is Dyna down as he's down 3 levels here to the Cerberus.
We saw all the same things last game, though, Toli. Hydra fell ridiculously far behind at the start of the match, and for the first 20, 25 minutes, it was all about Draco, and then Draco kind of just tunnel visioned a little bit too much.
Oh my goodness, that damage is just so surreal to see against a god that doesn't have magical protection. Billy's going to casually portal away, and this is not the point in time where Dyna can really stick around here. He's going to be forced to go into the Lawbringer, but such a short cooldown for last beta with the Shoes of Focus, with the Breastplate of Valor, and the blue buff that he's about to acquire.
30% cooldown reduction. There's no reason not to toss out that Stygian Torment every time it's available, especially considering that now he's just going to be able to take out this T1 tower. That's going to open up a lot of map pressure here for Hydra, which is exactly what they needed, considering that Draco has kind of been running things again in duo.
Definitely feels that way as Behisio eats a lot more poke than he definitely wanted to take as he's trying to run away now from Ideal Man that's chasing him right around the corner. The blue buff is the goal for Dark Hydra. And I think Ideal Man, recognizing this, wants to make his presence felt.
He's going all the way, and there's no farm to be acquired, and
Wasted time.
that's exactly all that Hydra really want to do, is try and waste a little bit of...
But now they assess the situation. They realize that everybody back, so they will try to confirm this Pyromancer. Dropping the Dharmic Pillars for that extra DPS boost allows them to sneak that objective for themselves. 15 minutes in. 39th. Oh, hold that thought, though. Dual lane, though. Lion Show barely able to escape under the horse. He's buying time, though, for the Fear No Evil.
And it's a beautiful engagement. Nice blink over the wall from Behisio, but Vampire still going to get the tower to separate. Going to be able to get him out. And Billy connects with the ultimate onto Vampish.
Goodbye, says Billy, for you. A clean pick onto both of the Hunters here. 1 for 1. Now T0 is stuck here, able to barely dash away, though. Juan is right around the corner, trying to assess even further damage. Here's Billy for you. Unstable Vortex to the wall. It's all a diversion tactic as a couple members from Draco get themselves a tier 1 in the mid.
Billy taking out Lion Show there on the backside. Lion Show had distanced himself so far away. He knew he was way too low to want to participate in that engagement any further, and I still just can't believe that Billy managed to connect there and make that an even 1 for 1, but it's going to favor Draco just a little bit more because Vampish did take the T1 tower.
There's just not that much time to react to through space and time when it comes behind the purple buff. Even if you did space yourself out, unless you have vision of where Billy is firing that from, you can't necessarily react. That would be almost inhuman. It's really fast. It makes other abilities look not fast.
What movie is that from?
I think it's Longest Yard. where it's
God, it sounds so familiar.
yeah, it's where the guy is like talking about the running back. He's like, he's so fast, he makes other people look not fast.
I thought this was something about, what was it that you and Tom kept saying the other day?
About what?
It was something about like a speed buff,
A speed buff?
where like, I don't know. It was very similar to what you just said then and there, but it was so close. I still just can't quite remember.
So close yet so far away is Dark Hydra's deficit, though. Now trying to make a play on the dual lane through space and time, doing so much damage there. Still chasing out Billy for you, Unstable Vortex onto both of them. They just actually walk into it.
And that's going to force out Lion Show's Aegis, but that doesn't even matter to Ideal Man. He's already so deeply invested to trying to secure these
The
picks.
shell, the
Nice
silence
shell.
is so good. Juan helping out his jungler. The taunt is good as well. Trying to use the reach passive to confirm the kills. The Unruly Magic will be juked, as will the Discordia Apple, barely running away. Ideal Man thanking his lucky stars.
He actually just ran all the way down past the T2 tower, dives, kills Lion Show, and then runs right back through. That was some great peel out of Draco to make sure that the Robin could successfully get away there, and it's not over just yet either. Dynadot gonna pop the sprint as an extra precaution to make sure that Juan doesn't get caught out anywhere unnecessary.
Juan is actually the one that's going to pop his own sprint, as Dynadot was just there for moral support. He's like, hey, I'm a tier, got a crown on my head and a big old sword. Be afraid of me.
There's nothing more.
Look at that sword.
That is a pretty massive sword,
Look
though.
at, no, not the size of it, but look how magnificent that sword is. Changes colors too and everything.
The color change is probably the best part about it.
Goes from a yellow golden crown to a bluish royal one.
But-
Gold Fury going to get started here. Draco Gaming trying to confirm it here. Away from Dark Hydra here through space and time. Portals will allow them to continue the chase. Thus far, Dynadot still has the Lawbringer if he wants to commit. Will do so here on the Discordia in the backline. Ideal Man blinking in, looking for more.
I love that Ganesh silence out of Juan. Antepejicio is going to delay the time of that Fear No Evil, but it doesn't seem to matter. They still managed to catch Billy, but Billy's still alive.
Rooted in place and taken out. Ideal Man gets the jungler here. Pejicio needs to wait out 40 more seconds. Mystic Rush over the top. The chase is on for this tier 2 tower here. Vampish leading the charge with Assault, doing a lot of damage as these two magical characters. Vampish was so hot at the beginning of the game, having so many kills, kind of quieted down once he was farming it away, and now with Billy making a statement for themselves, collectively these two magical damage dealers are 8, 2, and 8.
And more importantly, this is going to be the second Gold Fury now that's gone in favor of Draco, and that's the small gold and experience difference between these two teams hasn't really been all that detrimental towards Hydra yet, but this is starting to build up now to being a bit worrisome if you're Hydra, because if Draco are able to run away with the lead in this game, there might not give any open opportunities for Hydra to try and come back into this one. The Giannis is so great.
That's true. There's a lot of mobility on that side of Draco with just the through space and time. But if they feel a little bit too overconfident, they could use it offensively and not have it to disengage. And with Dark Hydra having so much control between the Cerberus, the Hunbats, the Athena, anything can happen if they can still just catch up in the level department, specifically in that mid and hunter position.
It's so hard to close that gap, though, this late into the game, especially when every objective is going in favor of Draco and no one to contest.
There's the offensive through space and time that was used, but what are they really getting out of it? Nothing realistically. They used it as a damage source to confirm the objective and potentially look for a play, but if all 5 members from Dark Hydra were there waiting for those portals to be taken, that could have been really tricky for Draco to disengage, but feeling a little frisky for this tier 1 solo tower. They're going to get flanked.
Billy also has 40% cooldown reduction, so he's not that concerned about that. As a nice silence is going to prevent the Stingent Torment for a little bit too long. Only going to be able to catch the Ganesh, but a beautiful Fear No Evil from Pejicio on the backside, going to force out some actives from
Vampish
Vampish.
is going to be in a little bit of trouble. Throws out the Stellar Burst, but needs to deal with the Doggo, Dharmic Pillars, and Supernova. Caught against the pillar. The Doggo falls, but not until 2 out of Draco gets eliminated. Left side is Billy for you, making his presence felt with the Unstable Vortexes that are off the mark slightly. Now a 4-on-3 for plenty of time. It's going to be Dark Hydra now making the comeback.
As T0 is going to dash right into the tower, manages to wrap up Billy through space and time, and come through yet
So
again.
much damage onto Pehesia. Lawbringer coming through as well. It's a 2 for 2. They're still holding on to their tier 2 tower. Strife going to connect onto Dynadot. Needs to really respect the damage because it's still there coming from Dark Hydra.
Dynadot, I think, was hovering on maybe trying to get into the Fearless off onto Hax, but don't think he had the cooldown available just then when he needed it. And even still, Hax does have those purification beads ready to go, so he wouldn't have been too concerned about that one. And now, T0, another nice taunt there onto Vampire, going to eat about half of his HP. And that's going to just push Draco back one more time.
Last Beta has revived, teleports into the solo lane. Billy taking the portal through the Fire Giant. It will be 5 members strong from Draco Gaming. Potentially looking for a Fire Giant here. That's where they're positioned. But instead, going to go for the right side mid Harpies. Gold Fury now respawning for another 2 minutes. I don't expect them to really want to force an objective and then potentially lose more if they don't successfully secure it.
But Hydra have been all about the counter engage for a while now. They haven't really done much else outside a focus on their counter engage, and for good reason. Draco just have so much initiation power off of this through space and time, and with Billy having the 40% CDR, it's practically impossible to avoid whichever direction Draco decides to come from with it.
23 minutes into the game. 15-6 with Draco Gaming having about a 6,000 goal lead. The question is, how do they extend this even further? Do they just kind of wait out more of these Gold Furies? Do they try to go for these towers? Where do they really rely on here, Taco?
I think contesting the objectives would be a strong start for Hydra. It just seems as though they've been a little discombobulated more often than not in those team fights. They're kind of just losing track of where their backline is at, which is why we see Pehesia actually being the one, I think, kind of doing a little bit of a Dynadot Game 1 cosplay, where he's focusing a little bit too much on going super deep into the backline, drop the Fear No Evil on top of the carries, that no one else from his team is close by enough to try and do any sort of follow-up damage.
A few similarities and a few differences between the Hunbats and the Susanoo. Being able to teleport to the third ability here between both of those characters. Looking to be aggressive with the blink though, and then using the others to disengage. But every single time Pehesia goes in, forces out a lot of defensive relics on that back line. Vampish barely was able to survive there. Soul is one of these tricky characters. Once you have Hasten Ring, not only is the Saprate annoying enough to deal with, but then you got more mobility on that ring. But looking for the pincer maneuver here. Here comes the Fearless. Gonna get silenced out. Fear No Evil over the top. Mystic Rush doing a lot of damage, but it's gonna be actually Draco Gaming taking more damage.
And Dynadot going to be forced to Lawbringer away instead. This Pehesia still trying to escape. Juan and Vampire's going to have to let that one go, but everyone's trying to turn onto the Cerberus now as Last Beta just going to get shredded by Vampish.
Both members from these teams are taking so much damage, and there's no sustain, realistically, AoE sustain, to top them off to kind of keep it on in these towers here. Solo tower tier 1 could be the play here. They do have 5 members strong with a minion to strip that one away, but it's only 500 gold at 25 minutes. You want to be able to get more than just this.
Everyone's backing though after securing the T1 tower, and a bit surprised that Draco didn't just pull the Fire Giant straight up. They had enough sustain, I think, for one member to just tank up that FG and let Vampish go ham.
Better safe than sorry, I believe that Draco really wants to not allow any sort of comeback from Dark Hydra. They are down 1 game, and in a best-of-3 set, taking that kind of risk, maybe not necessarily always warranted, but when you're giving up the Pyromancer on the right, and while you're splitting up Golfear on the left, you're leaving some members exposed. Specifically, Ideal Man could get caught out here if he's not careful, but having speed buff, having the Heartseeker as well, gives him enough mobility to really be able to just disengage in that jungle. And 25, almost 26 minutes in with his Gold Fury, Draco Gaming extending that lead to 7,000 here.
But it's still not quite enough just yet for Draco to confidently say, we got this game is 100% ours. There are still some measures that Hydra can take as far as the counter ganks are concerned.
Yep.
They are just getting a little bit too split up. If they focus more so around Pejecillo dropping that ultimate at the start of the initiation from the through space and time, I think that they're going to fare much better as the fight continues to develop.
They have so many crowd control abilities that can force purification beads here on Dark Hydra's side, right? One side is Pejecillo, obviously, with a Fear No Evil, but then you also got the potential Athena taunts, you also got the Cerberus, Stygian Torment. So Dark Hydra definitely has it in them to be able to get something out of this team fight. So last game was actually Ideal Man that had struggles with his connection as the Rata task word. Game number 2, it's T027 on this Athena support that waited out even through all those pauses that these teams are given to them. Could not get back in time, so they will play it out here 5-on-4, hoping that this Athena comes back the same way that Ideal Man came back for Draco in game 1.
That's a pretty rough one to lose as well. That Defender of Olympus is a really important ultimate, and just the Athena peel in general is going to be felt for sure as a definite loss.
They're going in here under the tier 2 tower. The last Beta gets stripped away with his life. The apple will spread around for a little bit, taking a lot of damage, but more importantly, in the backside, trying to make a play. Pejecillo 1v5, not finding a single kill. Almost taking out Billy for you. Forced him to use that purification beads just to disengage, but it bought enough time now for T027 to come back into this game.
Certainly helps to slow the bleeding a little bit here, but Draco were able to get away with 2 T2 towers in that engagement, so that's going to be at least another 3K gold that their players are going to receive in hand, and it's very beneficial as well, just adding 3K to the team's net pocket, because that's a decent amount. It could definitely finish off any items that are being worked on, and considering that everybody's already practically full build on Draco,
it's looking pretty good now as they extend their lead to beyond that 5-digit marker here, feeling confident enough to go for this Fire Giant with Last Beta just now reviving and Pejecillo soon to follow. No one from Dark Hydra wanting to overstep to try to defend and lose any sort of additional members. Still have to go through this tier 2 tower in the solo lane before they go for these Phoenixes.
But Toli, this is very reminiscent of game 1, if you're asking me. Draco had the lead, they had the Fire Giant, and they still couldn't siege on those Phoenixes. So I'm really curious now as to how Dynadot manages himself on this final objective.
Let's see how they learn from their mistakes in game 1. Dynadot was playing the RDO in game 1, now for the tier. Diving in the backline here, the Fear No Evil doing so much disruption here. Vampish gets taken out, Billy taken out, Dynadot, 3 members taking a tumble here. The slow with the ghastly breath will get silenced out for the moment here. Mystic Rush over the wall, but that's going to leave Juan high and dry.
And Juan, Mantle of Discord Pro, going to be his best friend for a moment, but still not enough to avoid the next taunt in the last Beta. With that ghastly breath, gets the final blow, and I hate to say, we told you so, but Draco has to do better.
That's true. I mean, so Through Space and Time was used diagonally into that solo lane Phoenix, and because everyone committed there, it just amplified all the AoE from Dark Hydra, the Stygian Torment, the Fear No Evil. You can only use beads for one. If you separate the cooldowns between those two abilities, you're not going to have the CC immunity for the other, and Dark Hydra was really able to abuse Draco's aggression there.
Draco know how to do everything except for end, I think, and you've got to take out those Phoenixes before you can do anything else, and Ideal Man going to be able to avoid a taunt.
Afraid of the tears, teleport will disengage because Billy for you clips 2 with Through Space and Time Threshold, and the blink from Ideal Man will get him in there with the Lawbringer. Dynadot takes out 1 through the portal, goes Last Beta trying to jump away. The Defender of Olympus will mitigate a little bit of this damage, but it's actually going to lead more trouble here as Athena lands. The Fear No Evil sets up the kill onto Ideal Man, so it is a 1 for 2.
And Juan already back into the fray, despite having just fallen in that solo lane. Level 16 Ganesh going to have a bit of a faster respawn timer than most everybody else on the map, who's sitting pretty at level 20. So that's going to help out in the counter chase by Draco, but they don't get anything else for it.
That's true. What does Draco do here? Yes, they do have the 4-on-3, but they don't have Fire Giant around the members that they really need to. It's not even respawning here for another 2.5 minutes. Only or Ideal Man was the only one that initially survived that right side Phoenix engage, but now that he takes the spell, no one on Draco has the buff any longer. Picking up the Pyromancer for themselves, just for good measure, trying to get some more rewards, upgrade those relics, get those 500 consumable potions, and set themselves up for this next Fire Giant in 2 minutes.
Hope that Billy is a little bit more patient with that through space and time. It felt rushed.
Yep.
I think that Draco are just running before they can walk on these Phoenix sieges, and they're stumbling all over themselves because of it. But if they just slow play things a little bit, catch their breath for a moment, they'll realize that patience is a virtue. And I think it would make a very heavy difference in terms of their success rate at actually being able to win the fight and take the Phoenixes, as opposed to what we've been seeing.
So the first 20 minutes, what Draco Gaming are doing, hold that thought though. T027 taking a lot of damage with that Supernova. Vampish gets a clean pick off. And this is what Draco does very well. I was going to say the first 20 minutes, they found so many picks. It's almost as if they're riding a unicycle while juggling random objects in the air. But then every single time they go into the Phoenixes, they just crumble. Everything falls from their hands. The unicycle breaks underneath of them. Somebody just threw a spoke in the wheel, and then they fall. They need to put on the training wheels, go back to the four-wheeler, and try to be able to get these clean objectives.
Holy, what the hell was any of that?
You got to go back to the basics here, Taco. Take your time with these Phoenix Sieges. Draco Gaming now with a 5-on-4. T0 responding in 10 seconds. Will have Defender of Olympus to go through, using the minions to try to go in, but taking more damage than it's worth. I was talking about them going back to the basics. They need somebody to go in and zone to allow Vampish all the structure damage on the soul.
Even if Dynadot wanted to be that savior for Draco, he doesn't stand a chance. Will be able to regen a decent amount of his health thanks to that nice heal off of Tier, but it's still pretty problematic for Draco.
They're setting up an ambush. They're setting up an ambush right here, right now, onto last beta. He gets knocked into place, but he's not taking that much damage. T0 gets hit by the through space and time, up and down, Mystic Rush. Dynadot trying to make it happen here over the top here, as Ideal Man is trying to juke and weave, but Payaseo locks him down.
Look at that shell, though. The shell and the Bloodforge passive actually really helping out.
The crits! The crits! Payaseo with a double kill. The juggle, though, on the Hunbats, trying to avenge his teammate. Dynadot will sacrifice his life if he doesn't get the heal off. The Bloodforge yet again on the Hunbats, doing work.
By far, worst case scenario for Draco. They had the jump on him. No one from Hydra had any idea that they were waiting around that corner, but they dropped everything onto a Cerberus that's
right.
Full tank.
That's right. They dropped everything on the tanky Cerberus, but then also through space and time was used offensively on the Athena, right? Like they had no tools to get away from the action. I like the risk, but I didn't like the reward that they got out of it. They got nothing. You get nothing.
It's okay to go for those ambush type plays. It's never okay to use all of your kits and abilities on two of the tankiest members from Hydra. So Draco also clearly struggling with a little bit of that target selection as the match has progressed more towards this latter time period, and that's a pretty unfortunate loss as well, because losing the Fire Giant on top of everything else, and the Fire Giant, Draco was struggling to siege even when they had it. So Hydra probably going to be able to utilize this FG a little bit better. So
what I do like, though, out of Draco, even though that they did fail that little ambush there, that they worked together as a team and a cohesive unit. Whoever made that call, the call was listened to, and that they executed it. Now, was it the right call? That could be debated. Obviously, they chose the wrong targets for the call, but at the end of the day, it's better than them being able to try to split push right side and middle lane like they did earlier, which cost them that middle Phoenix there. Tier 2 in mid lane gets taken out as Dark Hydra continues the pressure, having Fire Giant for another 2.5 minutes. Plenty of time for them to decide the correct training. The basic wheels here are being put on for Dark Hydra now. They're going for the towers before the Phoenixes. They know what it's going to take to close out this game.
They know what's going to take to close out the game, but knowing and doing are two entirely different subjects. And for Hydra, already off to a pretty good start. No more T2 towers left standing. for either side now, and it's all about the Phoenix.
It's all about the baby steps, stripping away the vision as well between the jungle side, allowing your Athena to kind of zone in the front line, being fearful of that potential dash taunt, pushing out the left, pushing out the middle as well, taking out the Mad Guy's cloak from Ideal Man, but still not engaging yet. That kind of hurt.
That did a little
Ouch.
bit more than hurt, as Hax is going to be able to avoid the next one. But Lion Show, having that crit-based build, should be able to regen no problem off of a couple auto attacks with these Harpies, and that seems to be the game plan here as...
He's going to the right lane. They're actually splitting up their forces to try to catch somebody slipping there. Trying to look at the mini-map to see if there's any sort of vision underneath. There is a great vision here from Draco on the top side and on the bottom. Both sentry warded. Dark Hydra, they used both of their sentry wards on the left. They don't really have any for the right side.
Draco as well also placed a ward in the center of the mid lane, so they're never going to really lose track of where Hydra is at. But no vision in the mid, and I like how they play sentries underneath, but this is going to be enough for the initiation, as the Fear No Evil going to be the first to be used.
Vampish used the beads as well through space and time, was actually used, but not doing too much there. But Billy finding the good damage onto Hax. It's a 1-for-0 thus far, 21-14. Dark Hydra trying to run away now. They can't find the Phoenixes either.
Everybody's having trouble with this sieging. It's going to be the last step here, as Bahisio going to be silenced away from an escape, and Ideal Man making quick work of him, but that's 3 members dead now for like a minute each.
They're pinging out the mid lane. Yeah, Draco are pinging out the mid lane. They are calling out the middle Phoenix. Plenty of time for them to get the Phoenix, but the question is, what do they do afterwards? Are they going to feel so bold as to go for the end, or are they going to go for the guaranteed other Phoenixes?
Look at how far up Lion Show is, knowing full well that everybody from Draco is trying to siege, and he's just trying to throw out what little bit of damage he can, going to be able to evade the blink initially.
The damage, the crits are doing so much work here. Guardian Mill will slow Dynadot down, oh, I'm sorry, Lion Show from Dynadot, and it's very important to get off that long-range poke, because look how unhealthy Draco is in order to go for the Titan. They can't even go for any of these side Phoenixes now with Hax respawning, even though it was a 5-on-3.
But they took first blood in terms of the Phoenixes, and that's going to be a little bit more important in the long term, I think, over everything else, since T0 still trying to scout out the next move from Draco. Everybody has respawned now from Hydra. There is potential.
The taunt was there. Pops some Mad Guy's cloak. Trying to go for the reach steal. Actually will be secured by Draco Gaming. Supernova was actually even used by Draco Gaming for a Pyromancer at the 38-minute mark. Definitely not the play if Dark Hydra wants to be aggressive here, with Fire Giant now just respawning. I love what they're doing on the side of Dark Hydra. T0 went so far forward to zone everyone from Draco back, even delaying so many backs that this next Fire Giant guaranteed for Dark Hydra.
Nothing for Draco to really do on that one. They didn't back immediately after sieging that Phoenix, and they probably could have backed. And
they couldn't. It was just T0 zoning them away, delaying all the backs.
But they didn't need to do the Pyromancer.
That's true.
They could have completely skipped doing the Pyromancer and had already backed immediately after taking the mid Phoenix, and then they could have very easily secured that Fire Giant fully healthy, no problems and no questions asked. And instead, they're going to kind of miss out on a nice follow-up opportunity.
3K defensive potion actually being picked up by the Soul from Vampish, really wanting to negate a lot of this backline penetration. Pehisio is being an absolute nuisance onto him, so going to mitigate that with a 50 additional physical and magical protections on that side. Could survive a little bit longer. Even getting Mad Guy's Cloak for himself, really worried about all the different forms of CC.
The Mad Guy's, I think, is a very necessary pickup, though. This late into the match, you might as well have a little bit more to help aid the rest of your team, because Danadad and Juan can't spend all of their time trying to focus on peeling for Vampish. Eventually, they're going to have to be the ones helping to initiate in some of these fights, and so it's better for Vampish to have some more of this self-peel possibilities by the Mad Guys and the Desaberate. Soul should realistically not be a very easy target to lock down.
I'm looking at Draco's composition, and you were talking about the self-peel versus the aggression. There's definitely more engaged tools from Draco than there is defensive options. Juan is going to need to sit in that back line, trying to peel for his carries there. But as a Ganesh, you got that single target peel to be able to like knock people up with the dash here. You got the Dharmic Pillars to zone people away from a specific team fight. But other than that, you're really relying on this Tier Raven combination to create havoc in the backline. But Dark Hydra is doing a better job of disrupting between all their AoE abilities.
That's another reason, though, why I really like these Magas on the Ideal Man and Vampish, because they're going to be able to avoid having to waste their Purification Beads on the Fear No Evil from Pehisio, which has usually been the main reason why Ideal Man has had to disengage off of a target.
41.5 minutes in. Both of these teams really struggling in terms of ending the game or getting the Phoenixes. They do such a great job in terms of team fighting, in terms of catching people off guard and getting these objectives in terms of Gold Fury and Fire Giant, but the Phoenixes just seem to be that roadblock. You know how writers always get that writer's block? They're like, they write a novel for like the first half of the book and then they just don't know the second half how to end it because they're so in love with their own piece of work. That's how it feels for both of these teams.
Well, I don't think these teams are very much in love with staying in this game for much longer, as Billy gonna have to use that through space and time offensively, and it's gonna spell his death.
Going to be another pick here as Lion Show takes out one. Pehisio falls victim. 2 for 1 at the end of the day. Hax gets a double for himself. Ideal Man gets taken out here. 3 for 1. Now Lawbringer being used defensively, trying to disengage here. Cannot be controlled, but the slow and the root. It's a 4 for 1. And Taco, Draco, they were in the lead for the majority of this game. And Dark Hydra are back in it. And they're winning.
I just don't understand why Draco were that far away from their Phoenixes. They try to take up a fight in the middle of their jungle, and not only that, but Billy gets shoved down to 20% health and ults inward.
Yes. Every single offensive ultimate from Billy was just not fruitful whatsoever. Could have been used to disengage, could have been used to get back into the team fight afterwards to just position himself for the unstable vortexes, but with that, Dark Hydra finds himself the 2-0 victory after 2 very long games. Draco Gaming taking a spill here. But, you know, going to the finals, still doing a good job. They're really showing that there's a reason why they're here.
A little bit more experience. I think that's what Draco's really missing out on more than anything else. I didn't really see too many issues with mechanics, but ultimately just came down to the decision-making by the team and their overall like rickiness in terms of knowing how to properly siege on objectives. They seem just a little bit too disoriented when trying to actually go onto those Phoenixes, and their team fight was just getting too split apart, and that just made it easy pickings for Hydra.
Well, with these two teams now wrapping things up for Phase 2, Week 2, they will advance to that Week 4 action here. That's going to conclude the Latin American North portion of the SGS. But don't go anywhere. We're going to have Latin American South right after this. Hello and welcome back to the Smite Global Series. Moving across from Latin American North down to the South region here. I'm Anatoly. Join with me is Taco. And we saw a lot of epic action here in North, and I'm hoping to see some more in the South.
And South, you can expect, again, some of the same sort of aggressive play style. Both of these regions, I think, are pretty notorious for liking to bring it to each other. They tend to come out swinging more often than not, and got a pretty fun matchup as well between these next two teams.
Oh, yeah. A lot of action here in LATAM. Honestly, they just love to fight here as we head into picks and bans for game number 1. It is going to be Petty Wetwalk against Sinister Esports.
There's no attending on that one, but it's fine. That I think makes sense to me. But I like that the Agni is going to be the first ban of choice here. I think that that's a very necessary ban. There does tend to be a lot of teams leaning towards this Agni pickup, and for good reason. A lot of range, a lot of poke potential, and a lot of burst as well.
Such interesting bans in this region, specifically comparatively to the SPL region that elects to ban a lot of these mages, some top tier assassins, but it's going to be the Agni and the Giannis from Sinister, whereas Petty going for the Geb and the Uller, focusing out the dual lane, allowing themselves to Circuit.
I'm a little surprised to see a Geb ban so early on. Geb feels a little bit more like one of those picks where you can choose to ban him out in the 3rd and 4th phase, but a little unnecessary at the start. So PD clearly concerned about some of that peel potential that I think a Geb could provide.
And the Geb ban actually allows the Circuit to really thrive even further than it already does on a consistent basis. They still have the Kepri if they want to go for a defensive pick, but Ardio and Habwa after the Circuit, good control with the Ardio and a lot of burst damage with the Circuit Habwa.
That Habwa caught me off guard for a second there. I'm not used to hearing that one all the time, but loving the response out of PD with the Fenrir. Not necessarily the most direct counter pick against Habwa. The Brutalize, though, being able to follow through the crushing wave seems to be one of the main reasons, and he's unable to be knocked up well. So again, Brutalize just perfect for avoiding the water spout, avoiding the crushing wave, but Habwa can still catch Fenrir in that damage. It all depends on which direction the crushing wave goes. Ansal
would be a great pickup here for this Fenrir that's going to be in the jungle more than likely unless they pull some Aurora shenanigans and put him in the support position. Discordia is going to be your mid laner for PD Wetwalk. As Soul, it's going to be that Hunter. Bologna and Fenrir will be accompanying them. Good frontline and backline mix here. Neath is the selection for Sinister. So having a little bit of global pressure to assist with the Circuit ganks.
And I like the Neath because having a clear target indicator from the Neath is going to be very important here as well. Just because that global setup is impressive. And I know you're shaking your head in curiosity.
Neath and Ram just got locked in for Sinister Esports here. What? They have already a Habwa, which is probably going to go middle more than likely. So the question is, who is solo lane? Is it going to be Neath middle or solo lane or Habwa?
It could be a Neath solo. It could also very well still be the Habwa in the solo lane, although I am hoping that it is Habwa in the mid lane and Neath in the solo, because they're both incredibly punishable gods in a laning phase, but I think that Habwa does definitely have way more survivability in mid than solo.
Some spicy picks here in the Latin American South. As the Cabrakan is going to be the last pick of choice here for Petty Wetwalk, and it's a good idea to have some sort of space control with the wall, the tectonic shift coming out here. Could have potentially locked in the Odin if they really wanted to, but needed, I guess, a little bit more magical damage. Really wanted to lock people down also with the tremors, and that's one of the most annoying forms of CC. It's kind of like the intoxicate form where you're still able to move, you're still able to cast abilities, but it's just slower. Everything is just slower for you to get away from that little ring.
Well, it's going to be Habwa in the jungle, actually. That Assassin's Blessing going to be the main giveaway, and Circuit as the support here for Sinisters. That one did slipped my mind just a little bit there. Haven't seen a Circuit support in quite some time, but in this sort of team composition, pretty viable.
Dardas actually did it yesterday here in the European SPL, piloting that Circuit support. Not really working out for him the way he wanted to, but definitely forced a lot of defensive Aegises early on in the game, whereas Petty Wetwalk not responding in kind. Having the purification beads means that going to absorb every single tick of that last breath. Going to be important for Buzzley to find that right target and get off all that damage.
And Joe Wow still just trying to clear out this wave, but Not a whole lot of dual lane pressure coming through. That's going to be an easy invade for PT to make. And Circuit Rom, this is what you're kind of expecting to happen at level 1. Takes 6 actual arrows to even clear the way, which is why we see the rotation from Pico, but he's not going to make it there in time to stop that purple buff from going the way of PT.
I just don't see the synergy quite yet between the Circuit Rom in the laning phase at the very least. Dealing with a Soul and Bologna is difficult enough as it is in a like little separate isolated impact, but then when you add these two together into one equation, now you got a recipe for disaster, and that's why that purple buff going the way of PT, they're really able to extend that early game advantage here with their composition.
And I like that they're still able to secure the mid lane, right side Heartbeats together, but I do have to agree. It's going to be very hard, I think, for Sinisters to have that hard setup outside of this Neithel. That's really the only hard setup I think that they have with the World Weaver.
I mean, they need high execution setup, right? They have Buzzley playing the Circuit. They do have Cobra's Kiss, the Last Breath, but it needs to be mechanically perfectly aimed and timed on top of that. Now, keep in mind, they do have this RDO solo lane that has a good amount of control as well. The AoE stun, the AoE cripple field is really going to disrupt what Quickito wants to do on this Fenrir.
I'm just concerned because the Circuit Ultimate does have a bit of a tendency to throw their targets out much further than what they want to. So that could pose some issues for Sinisters in the long term as well. Maybe relying a little bit too much on the Last Breath and World Weaver. I think the main goal here, though, for Sinisters, no matter which way you try to break it down, is deal damage.
That's what their composition is all about. Can they find the kills before they get killed? Solo RDO here doing a better job than Maverick on this Cabrakan thus far. Going for, yet again, another RDO, going for the Mage's Blessing. I think it may be like a Latin American region thing where they realize that RDO has a lot of damage or extra damage with all those abilities. Once you get a little bit of a higher level and some cooldown reduction with Shoes of Focus and Breastplate of Valor, you don't really need that many magical power items if Mage's Blessing is your additional booster.
Solo Q, though, still trying to hold his own against the Cabrakan, and even though he's level 5, that's not going to stop Maverick from chasing.
Shell. Oof. The Shell going to be used just for good measure because those Tremors are a very short cooldown. Even if you cancel them out, it's an 8-second cooldown that could be reapplied very quickly, so that's going to allow Maverick to still be that lane bully with the Shell being used, not having teleport in the backline. Buzzley, level 3, trying to go in and set up this jungle Habwa using the Water Sprout. World Weaver going to stun out, setting up the crushing wave. First blood for the jungle Habwa.
And that's all they need. That was a really well-placed Circuit taunt as well, just to initially try and help force out that sprint. And sprint's not going to get you away from the World Weaver, and that's one of the benefits.
It's true. Not going to be able to disengage from that one here. And only sitting at level 4, not having Eagle's Rally available. Unchained is off the mark and will not apply the stun. Didn't even want to potentially go for any additional follow-up after missing that one.
Not really a whole lot you can do as a Fenrir in that moment. The Unchained is usually your main source of damage early on, especially if he had a jump stun charged up, which you can probably expect to be the case.
To be able to go from 15 seconds of a cooldown to 7.5 is always the goal from Fenrir's. So once you miss that ability, you're just kind of walking away with your tail between your legs. And like, all right, I'll get you next time.
It just feels as though Pico has also rotated a little bit better than Quickito. And as a Fenrir, normally you want to be the one that's out-rotating the Habwa, but he's just struggling a little bit as he tries to look for the potential invade, but eating quite a bit of poke damage in the process.
Very true. It's a short cooldown for both the Water Cannon and the Water Sprout. Jumping over the wall will connect with the Ragnarok as well. A lot of damage here being used. World Weaver on top, trying to find the follow-up. Crushing Wave will be avoided as he jumps over the wall and spilling himself all over the blue buff. The Habwa that got the first blood will now take a tumble.
That was a really well-executed play from the Fenrir and the Cabrakan, I would say. Maverick more importantly, being able to get that killing blow on Pico is going to make up a little bit here for what farm he misses out on, since solo queue is still able to healthily stay inside of this lane.
Not having the purification beads just led to the ultimate demise of Pico Waves. He couldn't get away from the Unchained Ragnarok combination. I wasn't really watching his ultimate timer cooldown, but once that Neath ultimate connected, I assumed the Crushing Wave should have been used almost at the same time, if not earlier, because of that travel time, but instead, walking away with his life. Very important comeback here for the Fenrir. This Water Sprout needs to connect one more basic, finds it. Pico Waves cleans up Lean in the mid lane.
That's awful. That feels really bad as a Discordia to die in that way, but not a whole lot you could do. That just ton of damage from the Hawa.
Could have tried to juke, but Serket's support setting up the damage here. Sprint being even used, and right around the corner, Pico Waves at the right place at the right time. That was a well-positioned Eagles Rally sprint to be able to get away from the dual lane, but there's a lot of threats in the jungle, my dude.
And even though Pico just died, it doesn't seem to matter all that much, considering that he immediately bounced back, manages to find the kill onto Abyss, further keeping this Bologna support in line.
Homie Efe actually played the Hawa jungle here. Didn't have great success in the Laken, but got off to a great start. Another World Weaver setting up a beautiful Crushing Wave. Pico Waves sitting at 4-1-1 with 100% kill participation, doing a lot of work for his team.
And just looking at that mana bar as well, Pico probably had just enough mana to get the Crushing Wave off, so really well-timed combo between those two.
Uh-oh, Artio gonna get picked up and brought back right into Lean, popping the shell just to survive a little bit here. Here comes the Serket support, finding a kill quickly onto Quiquito, trying to go for more. Maverick able to go to his mid laner right around the Fire Giant side.
But they didn't manage to kill solo queue, and that was a pretty deep 3-man ult investment for an Artio, for no one to be able to find the kill from BP.
Shell was just perfectly timed there. It's a very uncommon relic now in Season 5 with how wide the map is. Teleport has kind of gotten a little bit of a resurgence in the solo lane, and sometimes even then you'll see more often than not a sprint instead, just to be able to be used in team fights, relying on your supports to be the one to pick up Shell, but respecting the fact that he could be the prime target of all these ganks, the Shell saved them not only once, but twice this game.
It's clearly already paid off.
Yep.
Being the relic of choice here for solo queue, and not to mention this Shell is going to be super important when the team fights start to break out for Sinister, since they are lacking a lot of that setup potential. At least providing his teammates a little bit more survivability could be all the difference in these team fights, since I would definitely favor Sinister's burst and damage over that of PT.
Now, I know that when you upgrade Shell, you can absorb the basic attack from Serket, which would prevent the poisons from popping, the bonus passive damage. But would that also work on this Kabrak? And hold that thought, though, Maverick is going to be the target here. The World Weaver, the Crushing Wave. Tell me if you heard that story before. Needs to connect on one more ability. Pico Waves with his 5th kill of the game.
The cooldown for Hawa, just tearing apart everything that PD tried to help make happen, as now it's going to be Fenrir and Bologna looking to invade this blue buff yet again, but they're just trying to back immediately after.
They see them and they disrupt them. They missed the Water Sprout. Will connect with the beam here. The cripple field, the Eagles rally will stun him in place. They're finding a nice easy pick onto one thus far. It's going to be a 5-on-4 for a little bit, chasing down Abyss here, but that sprint is going to allow him to immune the slow and cleanly disengage under that tier 1 solo tower.
For a moment there, I thought Solo Q was going to be able to catch him, but even if he did, not sure that Bugs would have been able to get close enough to even drop the Spirit Arrow on top to look for further follow-up damage, but Buzzley knows his soul laner just lost the blue buff, so Sinister's instead going to look to invade Kabraken's blue and make sure that Solo Q doesn't miss out on having some of this mana sustain.
Kabraken definitely needs that sustain a lot. Just letting him casually walking away, yeah. The blue buff goes to the Serket support. She needs some mana too. She needs some love.
Feels bad as the solo laner When your level 7 support takes the blue buff from you.
Yeah, but you have your own blue buff anyway. Like, supports barely get any sort of love themselves. Like, help a brother out.
This team greedy as hell. He's playing Circuit.
I mean, they're up 8-2. Yeah, they're going to be trying to make those plays happen. And don't forget, the cooldown reduction that you get from the blue buff might help the Circuit set up some more kills in the mid lane.
Possibly. That 10% CDR could prove to be very important as far as having the taunts ready to go on the Circuit and that last breath. Even the Deathbane, I think, considering that was the most recent nerf to Circuit, getting hit on the timer for the Deathbane.
Not going to be able to throw it out as much as she was in the past, but this time around, playing really aggressive is Sinister Esports at 8-2. Looking for a potential ambush around this around this Oracle side of the map as Abyss gets poked out more than he dishes out in response here. Finally will secure the Oracles for themselves, getting that vision for an additional minute. Pico Waves 3 levels ahead of Quiquito.
And no real surprise on that one, but the worst part about it is that now Pico is going to have those purification beats, so no more Ragnaroks to pull him out of position between the Crushing Wave and these beads. He should be good to go.
Sinister securing themselves a Gold Fury at 11:45. Not able to really contest it. Pity Wet Walk are just going to walk away here. Not even trying to go onto solo queue. That doesn't have that much mana to be relevant because Cabrakan on the right side, Maverick just split pushing, trying to be relevant in this game and getting his team 500 gold.
Maybe a potential Pyromancer pull here, but no. Instead, Maverick's just going to stay confined to that solo lane because he wants to take down the T1 first. But Abyss already forced into the Eagles rally. Pico still has his blink available, but he's going to choose to engage onto Quiquito instead.
Oh no, jumping over the wall. Abyss is right there, but he misses that Spirit Hour to root the Fenrir in place. Pico Waves clearing out middle, now rotating to the right side jungle. You talked about the Pyromancer being the next target in line, but I think that Sinister want to go for a little bit of poke here onto the enemies to make sure that this Pyromancer will be a lot safer to secure.
Did you see how much damage Pico was able to do, though,
Oh, hold
already?
that thought, though. The Ragnarok after the Unchained, but the Apple of Discordia will miss, but it doesn't matter. Just caught between too many members from Pity Wet Walk. Going down here is the Circuit support.
I still am in disbelief at the water cannon's damage, but for now, Bugs is just trying to survive. Lean, though, going to be able to take him out as Pico gets a quick little return kill with that Crushing Wave onto the Fenrir.
They're doing so much damage now with the all members from Pity Wet Walk catching out Pico is a great shutdown, but it goes on to Abyss. That's the Bologna support. Not the ideal member that you would really want to get all of that additional revenge gold.
2 kills as well. So 2 confirms out of the Bologna, but you're right, Tolly. That's important gold and experience that you'd much rather see on one of your damage-dealing carries right now, especially since damage has been what PD have been missing out on the most.
Well, it's going to shut down the momentum now for not only this Hobboy jungle, but for the rest of Sinister Esports as well. Keeping themselves relevant despite losing the Gold Fury. You know, they got themselves that tier 1 tower. They got themselves additional kills to catch up in the farming department here. And once these level 12s start hitting around the corner for these frontliners, they're going to be able to match the Relic race here. But more importantly, it's also Buzzley that's really struggling here, catching that experience.
Only so much to be done, though, by Buzzley. Whenever his team dies before he can even participate in the fight, there's not a whole lot that a Circuit's going to do by themselves, especially since he's got those Talaria boots and the Thieves.
Eagles rally over the top, sets up the Unchained into the Ragnarok. No CC immunity for Pico Waves, and now no life as well. He couldn't even use the ultimate because it wasn't up.
A little bit unexpected there as well. Pico's been very aggressive with his pathing all match, and largely due to the fact that he's just so much further ahead than the Fenrir, but I love what PD are choosing to do now. They get the pick, and that's all the confirm that they need in order to pull this Pyromancer.
Neath was thinking about rotating, but not going to elect to do so. In the dual lane, though, Rom taking some pot shots here at the Soul. And you were talking about the aggressive positioning here from Pico. Is hold that thought, though, because those Astral Arrows are chunking completely up in the sky. The barrage lands on the first one, misses the second, needs to hit on the third. Cannot connect. Hesitated for a little bit too long.
I thought he had it.
I thought so
I'll
too.
be honest. It seemed as though it was confirmed, but
Sprint as well. Abyss wants to avenge all this aggression here, but forcing out the Aegis, a good trade-off. A shorter sprint cooldown for a longer Aegis one.
But here's what matters more. Buzzley gonna force out Kikito's purification beads, and that's a really important cooldown because that means that Pico can now look for some follow-up potentially. He's gonna secure the left mid Harpies, and the Fenrir not too far away.
Uh-oh, World Weaver being charged up here. Pico Waves takes so much poke damage. His positioning has been so hit or miss in a lot of these little skirmishes and engagements. You can really tell the mentality of a player with how they play and look for those plays around the corner. He's more confident about hitting the water spout looking for poke than respecting the potential return fire that's coming his way.
Seems a little overconfident, if you ask me. He should start watching out a little bit more for his positioning. Had Fenrir actually jumped over the wall, that would have been a very easy kill. But doesn't seem as though Kikito noticed it in time.
Doesn't really care. Pico Waves, you know, he's just a Habwa traveling the Yellow River without a care in the world here. Really using that to go through the battleground of the gods. Solo Q just kind of chilling here, dashing through the proxy wave. Thought that Maverick was going to back there, but with the proxy farming coming out of this RDO, you don't normally want to let that go unscathed. You can't allow your tier 1 tower to fall just to minions. A little embarrassing if that were to happen. Catching the dash out of the SRAM. World Weaver can't be there in time to disrupt that, brutalize, even allowing the Soul to take it for him.
That's the support now is Pico. Gonna get a nice water spot there onto Lean, but unfortunately pushed him backwards. Would have probably not been able to connect with that crushing wave. You want to get them to where they're moving towards you. And in that instance, Lean was already in the process of backpedaling.
5-on-4 advantage for PD Wetwalk as they have the ROM dead for 20 seconds. Gold Fury's the next point of contention. Game is basically tied gold-wise. Around the corners, Pico Waves gets a double knockup, which forces the reset. It's always a great ability. The knockups, the banishes, the whoops or whatnot to disengage from all these objectives.
I like this, though. The Soul just trying to stack that passive.
The damage onto Neef there. He uses the Aegis right before the Ragnarok. Discordial Apple off the mark here. Bugsy trying to survive for as long as possible, but will not ultimately do so. Another clean pickoff from Pity Wetwalk.
I think that Sinisters are starting to feel the difference here between a lack of peel and what setup can actually do. PD, though, a bit off the mark with connecting some of those combinations. Still managed to find the kill, though, onto Bugs, and considering that they also forced out both of his relics, that's going to be very important for the Fenrir to keep in mind, able to grab him the next Ragnarok even.
It's going to be a great look for this Fenrir that's making a lot of plays happen with 6 assists and the 1 kill. He's been a part of 7 of his team's 8 kills collectively, so, you know, despite having that 3 depth slash line there, that's kind of what you're expecting out of your Fenrir jungle. He has to be so close to the action, and sometimes that could ultimately cost him. Struggled in the early game, but now making a slight comeback here.
Hitting level 16 now, still trailing, just a little bit behind Pico is, and not a whole lot you can do about that. Pico just had an awesome start, and only now is he really starting to get a little bit punished even, and it's more like his team getting punished as opposed to him actually being the one being caught out.
It's very, very true. Pico Waves was just always at the right place at the right time in the early game, but now it's getting to that mid-game portion. So we approach the 20-minute mark where anything kind of goes here. Game is basically even, minus the experience portion of it. And with how much offensive items are in Quikito's build, I want to see him start transitioning into the defensive side of things. He is going for potentially what could be either the Mantle of Discord or that Spirit's Throw. Could also be the Hide of Urchin. That's only the tier 1 version of it, but I think Onsile would be so much more effective here against the Habwa.
I love this out of PD, though. Everyone from Sinisters is just a little bit too distracted by the farm.
Rom Snipes coming through. Second, third one. Sinister steal it away. Wow. Wow, stealing that one away, but Quikito stealing away the life of Bugs. Yet again, the relics was not available like you talked about earlier.
And Lean gonna be able to take out Bugs for that killing below, adding just another mark to his already bit of an overwhelming lead, actually, against Boggs. He's sitting at level 18 now. And Biddy is slowly but surely climbing into the
Wow,
lead.
that damage from Habwa, though. Knockup could not connect onto the water cannon afterwards, though. Leading the charge is going to be Maverick here, trying to clear those minions. Is solo queue, but finally now making the rotations here under the tier 1 mid. Is Sinister Esports playing defense, but Petty Wetwalk has that 5-on-4 advantage, and they're going to secure themselves 500 gold.
I like this play from the ROM, though. He's not going to be able to rotate in time, but he is going to force a teleport out from the Kabrakan. And
it was canceled out, actually. It was CC'd away. Solo queue stunning that out, so Rom could still stick around in the dual lane to try to get his team some gold.
And Kraken's actually going to back now, actually still looking for the TP in, but he's not going to be able to save that tower.
Too fast.
Honestly, it's for the better, I think, that he gets to hold on to that relic, because TPing for a T1 tower is just not worth it.
I agree, and also I'm pretty sure that Jiao would just kill him outright. Level 18 Rom, just now finishing off Wind Demon. He was sitting at the tier 2 version of it, but with the 2-level lead, Maverick was level 16 still at the time. Did have the breastplate and the winged blade, and that's not really the kind of damage or defense that you're looking for. You want to get the height of the mean line and the thorns against this late game Rama, but he has neither.
I think the problem that I also have here is that there is a Thorns on PT, but it's on the Fender, and the only defensive item that Kukito has is the Spirit's Robe, but that's realistically not enough to stop the damage coming out of this ROM.
It's very true. Not going to be enough to deter him from firing away those basic attacks. Might need to go for the height of the mean line to make it even more tempting, and that could be the next look. He still has 2 more item slots once he sells out that Assassin's Blessing, but definitely want to see more out of Maverick as well. Without the Thorns, he's not going to be able to really stop the ROM, but needs more physical defense.
Needs a lot more defense in general. I think it's better to just rely on lean and fend away as far as the damage portion of your team composition, and then just look for that 3-man front line. I would like to see just pure defensive items coming through and a little bit more cooldown reduction as well for Kikito. That way he can spam this Ragnarok more efficiently.
Well, Spirit's Row provides that 10% cooldown reduction, so going to have a little bit of extra cooldown reduction with that item if he goes for Mantle of Discord. Another defensive option that has the cooldown reduction could be another great look for him, but he's already still making the plays. We were talking about him making a comeback here. He's still 2 levels behind Pico Waste, but unless Sinister Esports literally end the game in the next 2 minutes, it will be Quickito catching up to him in the level department.
And I love that the ROM just immediately went straight up into that ultimate. He's already on his T2 tower line, so he knows that BD are not going to chase him that much deeper, although the grouping has come through now for Sinister. There could be some turnaround potential, but they're just going to let that T1 fall. They've already taken out PD's T1 in duo. No real need to put themselves out of position.
They got the win, and they're going to walk away with it. Still can reset very easily here as Gold Fury respawning in 1 minute and 10 seconds time. The ROM ult should be available for that one. Remember, it was stolen away by Sinister last time. It should have been PD Wetwalk that walked away like bandits with that one. And it keeps the game basically even and tied with the result of that steal.
And I like what Sinisters are doing now, recognizing that everybody from PT who was in duo head back to base. That's going to give them more than enough time to just easily strip away that T1 in mid that was sitting way too low.
24 minutes in. Both teams now starting to shift their attention to the right side of the map. But Gold Fury is going to be the next point of contention. It's always that risky balance and juggle act where you're thinking about, okay, right side is looking mighty tempting, but Gold Fury is about to respawn. Which do we go for? And normally, 9 times out of 10, you want to do the Gold Fury first. It's just quicker to kill. It's less risky in terms of taking that much damage. And both of these teams are so evenly matched here, Taco. It's 9-9, and the gold is even.
The gold being even is probably the best thing for PD right now, because Sinister's draft seems as though it relied a little bit more on them becoming super far ahead in the early game. A lot of investment into all of the aggression, as an accidental reset's going to come through from Kikito. And
another one. Is he going to steal it this time around? Second and the third one. PD Wetwalk will secure it for themselves this time. Didn't need to invest the Supernova to confirm it. Eagles rally over the top. Trying to stay alive right now is Buzzley getting chased by the big doggo, but the crushing wave denies him.
Completely forgot that there was a hub wall on the map for a second there. Kikito just lagging out as Abyss going to get taken a hit by that World Weaver.
Abyss gets thrown back into the fray. Last breath, last life for the Bologna. Trying to run away now as the rest of PD Wetwalk in a 5-on-3 advantage. Sinister pushes up the mid lane.
And the chunks are coming through them from
Buzzley
Lean.
gets taken out, but not before Lean gets traded out here. Maverick gets stripped away as well, so it's only Soul. Pandy trying to defend here against the tier 2, but it's not going to be allowed. Pico Waves creating that buffer zone, not allowing Soul to get anywhere near.
He just has to juke the auto attacks. The hastened effect isn't going to be a possibility even, because it's a demonic grip that the Soul has. So used to seeing a lot of these Souls opt for the hasten ring,
That's
especially when they're the actual hunter, because they want that easy boxing potential.
Even getting Soul Gem and Demonic Grip before the Hasten Ring, not to mention Obsidian Shard and Demonic Grip in the same build, seems like a little bit of overkill.
A little bit more than overkill. It's a bit unnecessary even. But it's not the first time that we've seen players struggle a little bit with builds, and I'm hoping that he ends up selling
one or the other.
Exactly. He needs to
Not
get rid of
both.
one of them. He doesn't need both of them. They're not really doing anything being combined together, especially against a team that's investing purely into damage pretty much, outside of the physical defense that we see Solo Q stacking up on.
It's very true. Solo Q going to be able to keep himself alive against Quikito and Abyss, but against Soul, could be an easier time for him to find that kill. Keep in mind, regarding Mail, despite having physical defense, with the recent changes, as long as you're getting hit by any sort of basic attacks, that target will get slowed quite significantly. 30% movement speed and attack speed, to be exact, after 2 stacks.
Speaking of significant slows, oh, actually, that crit onto Maverick just going to completely deter him from wanting to pursue that any further. And both of these carries now opting for very different builds.
And I like the idea here that one of them has, or both of them actually have Executioner. I would have loved if only one of them had it, so that the other could have optimized for a slightly more damage bursting item. With Rob's attack speed, it'd be very easy for him to build it up, and considering that Neith is an ability based hunter, you would expect her to be stacking in that pen tree.
She can get rid of the Executioner and sell it for a Crusher.
Yeah.
That's still going to give her the 20% attack speed if she really wants that much attack speed, and it's going to help out that ability damage on Neith.
Yeah, just getting that Bluestone pendant effect back in Season 4 onto all of her abilities. Abyss is barely going to be able to back there. Right around the corner was Sinister. Gold Fury still down for another 2 minutes. Fire Giant is going to be very tempting here if there's any more picks. But PD Wetwalk not going to allow it to go freely. Will show a little bit of presence around here.
Strife not going to hit onto Solo Q, and even if it did, it would have just been a root. But PD clearly respecting the damage output from Sinister Esports, and Sinister's whole game plan here is the best defense is a good offense. And
It's very true.
if they don't find the kills outright, though, they could run into a lot of engagement issues.
But playing offensive against the Hawa could be tricky. Trying to make it happen is Sinister. They're going to disengage for the moment here. It's Solo Q getting picked up in the Ragnarok, but eating an apple for good measure. Popping the shell. It will spread onto the Sarkat, but crushing wave through the middle. Abyss goes back into the Abyss as he gets taken out. Pico Waves gets taken out. Bugs as well. It's going to be a double kill for Lean. 2 for 1 at the end of the day.
Pico goes in, and then Pico is taken out. That's pretty much a recurring theme that seems to be happening here for this Habwa. Pico kind of just struggling. That was an awkward spot to drop the crushing wave, and I understand it because when everybody's that grouped, you got to go for it sometimes as the Habwa.
Yeah.
But you also end up right in the center of 5 different
Yep.
people, and everybody's going to turn all their attention towards the highest damage dealer available.
There's a lot of consistent damage from Sinister Esports between the Rom, Neath, and Habwa jumping into the backline here, trying to stun him out. Yao Wow gets taken out here. Fire Giant will get reset for the moment. It's a 3 for 1 at the end of the day, but Fire Giant trying to get secure. PD Wet Walk will secure despite Buzzley right next to him, despite Solo Q trying their best efforts to strip that one away.
And I think Kakito heard you earlier, because the Nemean Lion pickup on top of the Thorns, huge difference, I think, in dropping those Thorns against the Rom, because he crit himself to death.
Oh yeah, that's why crit is just so... It's just so less tempting to be able to be picked up here when there's options such as the Thorns, such as the Hide of Namin. You can always pick up Hide of Namin. You can sell other items to pick that up in case somebody switches to go for crit. But once you invest in a relic, you can't switch that one out. So I personally would only go crit if there's no Thorns on the map. If they go Hide of Namin, I would still probably go crit though.
The other thing too is that Kakito can just wait all day long until he's in that 1v1 scenario against the Rom, because there's really no other purpose for him to ever use his Thorns. Against the Neath, Habwa, and even the Circuit, they're gonna be dealing damage in much different ways. The most effective use of it is just using it whenever Rom's trying to make an impact in the team fight, and it's clearly keeping him shut out.
First Fire Shine of the game, going to PD Wet Walk. What are you expecting them to do after this tier 2 mid?
I would prefer to see them grab all the T2s, because they have a much higher likelihood of picking a member from Sinister by going for every single tower, as opposed to directly shoving one lane. If they get too low here, then they're going to have to force back all the way before pushing back up in those waves. And I do wish that they would have grabbed those waves before all meeting up in the mid lane.
Now, this Habwa jungle was really working out for Sinister at the beginning of the game. Where did it really go south for them that PD Wet Walk was able to start getting the Fire Giant?
That's the key, is that it worked out at the beginning of the game during the laning phases, when teammates aren't as grouped up as they are right now. As the laning phases started to end and PD was able to group up, their composition is... definitely a better one, I would say, because they have that peel necessary. They have the engagement and the proper disengagement to help get them out of danger, but the same really can't really be said for Sinisters. This is an all-in investment team. It's either they drop everything and manage to get the wipe against PT, or they're going to end up losing it.
Trying to go in the right side, solo lane Phoenix. PD Wet Walk with Fire Giant around their waist for another minute and a half. Taking their time with it. Not going to overstep any boundaries. Going for the long-range poke with the Stellar Burst whenever they can find it. Still waiting for some more minion waves before they enter the tower. They really want to be able to eliminate that backdoor protection by grabbing those minions and allow Quiquito some more timing to split push in the mid lane and force out Pico waves to defend. A small window to now aggress on the right side.
Can't blame him too much for this one, as Maverick now, sprint has been popped. They're looking to go in. Eagles rally straight to the backside as the Cabraca wall is going to further separate everybody from Sinister.
Solo Q is going to be the focus here. He gets taken out here. The Golden Apple even spreading a little bit here, eating a bunch of crits. Maverick barely able to get away from that one here. Neath Ultimate was still available, but too many bodies in front of Maverick to absorb it.
But just look at how healthy that Phoenix is. That's
Yep.
a successful defense out of Sinister. Their burst damage now finally getting to collectively work together.
Well, PD Wet Walk, they tried for it, but they didn't lose any members despite failing to go for that objective. They still have Fire Giant around for a little bit longer, 20 seconds to be exact. So they're going to grab the Pyromancer, wait out the next time the Fire Giant respawns, try to get some vision around the right side of the map, and kind of regroup their efforts. Take the notes on what worked well and see if they can kind of get it off in the next time around.
That's just how it has to be sometimes, though. And PD, they had a solid opportunity. And I liked how they tried to break up Sinister's comp through the Cabracan wall and the Eagles rally. It's just not quite enough follow-up damage to kill those tankier members from Sinister.
Sinister was spread out very well here, and it was just a great look for Solo Q being able to absorb all those abilities and barely walk away. That Shell doing so much work for this solo lane RDO, saving herself so many different times.
And not really a whole lot of relic investment in general there. from Sinister. PD, I want to see them on the next engage because I'm pretty certain that they'll be able to look for this Fire Giant yet again. These jungle fights are way more favorable for PD than Sinister's, I would say, because it's much easier to pick them apart in the jungle than on their Phoenix.
I think both teams have high execution compositions. In terms of forcing out the crowd control, Kukito needs to land the Unchained to force out the beats after the Ragnarok. He doesn't have Blink to get in there. Solo Q, though, around the Fire Giant pit, being a little bit of a diversion here to allow this knockup from Pico Waves onto Kukito, just doing a lot of damage. That one ability took out like 20% of his health.
No one's anywhere near the damage output, though, from Pico, and sitting at almost 31,000 player damage, so his poke has been very relevant and largely kept Sinister from outright losing some of these engagements.
Soul Reaver was proc though. 15 seconds remaining on that one. Maverick trying to get in the thick of things. Eagles rally on top of Pico Waves, trying to run for his life. He uses that crushing wave defensively, but the apple takes him out.
And now it's going to be the Rom rolling away, forced into that Astral Barrage, but still everybody from PT is right underneath him. He's way too low, still trying to stay alive.
He gets surrounded completely and pounded. Gets taken out, but not until Kukito falls with his life. It's a 4-on-3 advantage for PD Wet Walk. They're catching their Circuit support, but not until she ambushes away. Now focusing their attention on Solo Q. Solo is this RDO bear trying to run away, but instead might go for the Phoenix. No, the strike from Lean catches him slipping.
This should be a Phoenix, though. The Soul is still more than healthy enough to continue the engagement on this one. And Bugs, it seems as though PD want to try and go for the win outright.
They're gonna go for it, but they don't have the health pool to really play with. If they don't find the kill onto the Circuit, she's gonna be able to heal up very effectively here. The Neath Root not on the mark here, being able to kill all those minions from a distance very safely. They don't have the Fire Giant here, and they only have one Phoenix down. Still need another Tier 2 tower being stripped away in the dual lane to make the Titan at its most vulnerable form.
Just so glad that they actually chose to back off there.
Yeah.
For a moment, I was really concerned that they were going to try and full commit into that Titan room, and that would have been a horrendous misplay, considering everything that they were just able to secure. They take down the Phoenix, they take down a couple of members from Sinister, and now they have an opportunity to maybe look to siege this Fire Giant yet again, but a nice little zone duty out of Bugs and Buzzley. Gonna delay it at least for a little bit longer.
Solo Q reviving now. It's gonna be a 5-on-5 around this objective, but with the fire minions trickling down the solo lane side, PD Wet Walk has an advantage to be able to at least start this objective and maybe force a team fight. Every single time the fire minions get closer and closer, it could slowly chip away at that Titan room, or it could just match itself to the respawning Phoenix.
Bugs gonna try and join up with the rest of his team's forces, and one of the silver linings here for Sinister is the fact that sure they might have lost their Phoenix, but it was the right-hand Phoenix, the one closest to the Fire Giant. They can still possibly contest this FG without receiving too much fire creep damage.
Solo Q going to get stunned out by Maverick, but a lot of return fire. It's a 5-on-2 on the right side. The Cabrakan Wall, perfect disengage tool, still trying to chase down Kukito. The snipes are so good from a distance here, just the basic attacks rather, as Buzzley spread the poison, not being able to survive that one.
That upgraded sprint from Solo Q going to be the reason why even the Ragnarok didn't provide enough movement speed to get away, and this is a complete turnaround now as Sinister are able to secure the Fire Giant despite the Eagles' rally.
The Scordia Apple will spread around the Fire Giant pit. Abyss are thinking about going back in. Buzzley ambushes away the rest of PD Wet Walk despite losing one member. Still want to aggress against this Fire Giant side from Sinister. Finding a second kill. The Neath World Weaver finding a third onto Abyss here. Still moving forward. Pico Waves takes out one, but not until he gets taken out. 3 for 1 at the end of the day.
That Supernova nearly took out the Rum in the process as well. Everybody was too busy holding W that they kind of forgot there's still damage that might be fired our way as well.
That's very true. PD Wet Walk is going to chase down both Bugs and Solo Q, while in the mid lane, it was actually Buzzley kind of pushing out the wave. They need to be worried about this fire minion wave that's on the right side. Will be stripped away now as Bugs is right here alongside Solo Q. Not going to be worried about that Titan taking any sort of poke.
But getting the Fire Giant and looking at the right-hand Phoenix, this should be a pretty easy resurrected bird here for Sinister. And that's going to delay the game just a little bit longer. And that delay in game is all that Sinister really need right now.
Pandy gonna secure himself a free Pyromancer. Just a little bit of extra gold to try to get more potions, but already sitting at the 500 and the 3k damage potions. The Soul is absolutely chunking for his team. 27,000 damage on the charts here, right beneath the Discordia and the Hobwa, which is to be expected with that build. Also going for a very interesting Rod of Tahuti, having Demonic Grip, Obsidian Shard as well. Was a little bit waffling with the penetration selection here, but getting a little bit of change here in Season 5 is this Rod of Tahuti item, Taco.
And that change is going to be one of the main reasons why we've seen such a drastic shift, I think, in some of the mages that are being prioritized. Usually those who relied just too heavily on that Rod of Tahuti, struggling a little bit more so, but that's not the case here for the current mages selected in this match. I'm actually a bit surprised to see a last item Rod of Tahuti onto the Soul. I feel as though a Soul Reaver might have been a little bit more beneficial. It's not going to be very often that I think Ben is going to be looking for those last hit on the threshold for the Rod of Tahuti as much as he's going to be the one shredding them to that point.
Well, the thing is, I think that he's relying on Lean on the Discordia to be able to do that job for him. He has the Soul Reaver piloting the Discordia middle, so having a lot of burst damage from your mid-mage, the consistent damage is what you're really looking for your Mage Hunter. Trying to defend their solo lane side. Phoenix Speedy Wet Walk. It's 18-18 against Sinister Esports. 41.5 minutes in. Fire Giant around Sinister's waist for another minute. Trying to engage here. Just looking for the long-range poke as both teams.
But Sinister, they're not going to be too deterred from trying to siege this last Phoenix. And
who goes in here for Sinister? Is it the Blink Circuit?
I think it's the RDO. RDO has to be the one that gets in there first because there's really no other member that you want to see trying to tank the Phoenix.
Fair enough.
Except for maybe Buzzley, but even then, Circuit with a Blink, much rather be initiating off of that Blink taunt over something else.
Abyss was able to pop the Mad Guy's Cloak onto Buzzley, blinking in, catching out one. Their Eagles Rally going to not connect onto anybody. Abyss eats the World Weaver. Discordia Apple connects onto Buzzley, but will not spread. And it's going to be a little bit of a wash now as Sinister disengages, but Solo Q is going to engage.
And it's going to be Solo Q taking up the Phoenix, making sure that his teammates can wreak havoc on the backside of Pity as they're already tearing them so incredibly low.
Doing a lot of damage as Pika waste, but he's eating a lot in return. Snipes from the sky. Yow Wow doing so much there as the Phoenix still standing strong. Solo Q gets taken out by Lean. There's the damage coming out of your two mages in the back line. Panny gets another kill for his teammates, chasing out Bugs, but gets rooted in place. Cannot find an additional kill, but keeps their Phoenix alive.
I think Sinister forgot they still have to take the Phoenix in the process, and by the time Rum realized it, it was already too little too late. And so that's going to be a successful defense now out of PD, and the Phoenix is going to be able to regen all of the health it just lost, although it will take a little bit longer than what they probably want it to. It's going to be a while, I think, before Sinister tries to aggress again.
Can't unfortunately look for the backdoor potential. There's a lot of vision to spot that out soon as the Abyss are making the rotation happen. Drops two wards under the back right mid Harpies here with the Fire Giant now respawning here. Enhanced Fire Giant goes to the way of Pity Wet Walk. Nobody from Sinister close enough to steal this one away, especially with Abyss zoning so far away.
I like that PD are going to be the ones re-establishing control of this match. I almost feel as though they never should have really lost it in the first place, just getting a little bit too ambitious there, I think, underneath or before they were all grouped up. It was really just Maverick and Coquito getting caught out by themselves and getting chased down that really even allow Sinister to have that opportunity.
Once they got the right side Phoenix about 5-10 minutes ago, they kept trying to go into the throne room of Sinister Esports instead of trying to go for the middle Phoenix instead of the left tier 2 tower Phoenix. So they wasted a little bit of time of what they really wanted to do with their Fire Giant buff. But this time around, with Enhanced Fire Giant amplifying their structure damage for 30%, will get the guaranteed tier 2 tower that's on its last legs here. I'm not expecting Sinister to defend this one.
Soul still working right alongside Kakito, and with everybody else lurking in the jungle, they're gonna make quick work of this last T2 here, and all eyes on the next Phoenix Siege. It seems as though PD don't want the one closest to the Fire Giant this time around, though. They're looking for the best bird out there, and it's going to be the one directly opposite, furthest away from the FG that Sinister is going to have to worry about defending.
Trying to figure out a way to penetrate this front line. Out of Sinister Esports currently, Pico Waves positioning himself for a knockup. Will catch Abyss, procs out. That's Soul Reaver, so not going to have that on the target that he might necessarily want to find the kill. Kokito going to shove out mid for the time being, trying to get that wave a little bit closer. So Pico Waves keeps him busy in the middle. It's going to be a 4-1 split. Keeping the Habwa out of the action is so important here. Kokito now going back to the left lane as Sinister trying to defend the left side. Phoenix in the backline, trying to go in, was Buzzy, but he gets stripped away with his life. Lean throws the apple and makes the Circuit eat it.
And that's going to be a beautiful crushing wave force out from Pico, and Kakito, that's all he needed to do. He just needed to shove that crushing wave away. That's one of the main damage sources that Sinister have in their favor, and now that it's getting stripped away from them, Pico's going to instead have to rely on the water spout and the water cannon for his damage output.
It's a 5-on-4 for another 45 seconds. Solo Q trying to be that frontliner because Buzzley is dead. It's only up to him, and he gets absolutely eliminated. He gets striped into the Unruly Magic, make it a 5-on-3. Pity Wetwalk with Fire Giant looking very strong here to close out game number 1.
They're looking for the final Phoenix, still playing it safe despite being in a 3v5 situation. They don't want to take any chances whatsoever. They want all 3 waves of fire groups pouring into the base before they have to worry about anything else.
They're afraid of Pico Waves' damage here between the knockup, between the water cannon, even going to stop themselves from going into the throne room from Sinister, going to regroup their efforts. They were thinking about maybe setting up an ambush against Pico Waves, trying to find the strife through the wall here. Fire Giant still around their waist for another 40 seconds, but the respawns are starting to happen. Buzzley's back up. It's a 4-on-5. Still need to wait 25 more seconds, though, for Solo Q. Blake again, the knockup. The World Weaver, Bugs, takes out Pandy that was left alone.
Sometimes that's all it takes. One moment. And that's going to be a 70-second death spawn timer into what was once such a successful push and siege, and Pittywalk still got at least all 3 Phoenixes.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Massive.
Don't get me wrong.
It's
definitely worth. Like if he died during a siege, I'd be like, yeah, Soul losing her life for 3 Phoenixes, definitely worth. But getting caught out in the jungle unnecessarily with his teammates right next to him, could need to reevaluate of what he wants to do. But keep in mind, though, his respawn timer will align with the respawn of the Fire Giant. So still plenty of ample opportunities for Pity Wetwalk to secure themselves another late game objective.
Pyromancer, not necessarily needed here, but
It's a filler.
they just want it.
It's a filler episode, Taco.
Take what you can get, and if it's going to be standing right there in front of him, why not? Speaking of which, Rom gonna have no problems taking out this T2, and I love what he's chosen to do here by shoving this fire wave so far up.
Pico Waves was actually pinged out by PD Wetwalk over that ward that they had. Very defensive ward there. I think they were trying to catch somebody slipping, but nobody from PD Wetwalk took the bait. Still with Fire Giant respawning here, as Pandy is also respawning right in line for this late game objective. I don't expect Sinister to want to defend this. There's so many fire minions that will come into their throne room if they die here.
I like that Sinister are maybe thinking about contesting this Fire Giant. They have to take a fight outside of their base right now. They've got 3 different waves of fire minions to worry about, and
look how
some of
close
them are
they
even
are.
starting to spill in.
Yeah, it's taking so much damage here is the Rom. Wow, going up to the sky and instantly canceling it. He's going to hightail it out of there, try to back to the base, making sure he doesn't die, and making sure that he defends his Titan. The mid and the right side solo lanes, fire minions are getting closer and closer.
still thinking about fighting, though, even in this 4v5 situation. Pico Wave's kind of trailing around the corner, seeing if he can maybe catch somebody on the flank, but neither
They
Abyss
can't.
or Kakito is going to have to worry about that one, and Pico is still lurking. He could steal this Fire Giant,
Yes,
but it's
with the
all
blink.
about surviving.
It's all about the blink timing here. Buzzley's going to eat the apple yet again. The Ragnarok takes out the circuit. No, ambushes away right around the wall here. Thanking his lucky stars for that one. Pico Waves took a lot of damage here. Still has the blink available, but Betty Wetwalk secures themselves the Fire Giant.
They need to back a little bit sooner, though. That left-hand Phoenix just respawned, and fortunately enough, so did their next wave. Will delay, at least for a moment, that left-hand Phoenix getting touched, as Rum's gonna, one more time, push this one back out. And all 3 Phoenixes are actually gonna be respawning here now for Sinister, but they're very weak at that.
Very weakened indeed here, Taco, trying to defend it against the AI, but then they're going to have to worry about the real human players piloted by Bitty Wetwalk with the Fire Giant. The late game Fire Giant here is going to be pretty easy for them to get these Phoenixes. It's going to take about 2 or 3 soul hits at full heat to secure that one. Having the 500 and the 3k potion for himself, while Abyss gets himself the 3k defensive potion, going to be able to survive a little bit longer. Surprising to see these Tide of Urchins from Bitty Wetwalk not fully stacked quite yet.
Sinister, though, sigh of relief, I think, that all 3 Phoenixes are at least up for the moment. It's all about staying alive, and we just haven't seen that game-changing ultimate yet out of Pico, and I think he's really just been struggling with getting into the back line now that it's later into the match, and BD just have so much peel provided to their carries.
It's almost like he has to blink past everybody and then ulti back into his teammates while hitting everybody. That would be the dream scenario, but not the dream for Sinister trying to defend their left side. Pico's did a lot of damage with that crushing wave. Lean gets taken out by Solo Q. The snipes from a distance supporting him. Solo Q with a double bugs taking out Maverick. 3 dead members from Bitty Wetwalk. They couldn't get the left side Phoenix. They lose a 4th as well. Is this the comeback that Sinister Esports needed here, Taco?
I think they just lost. There are 4 members with over a minute
That
to
right
go.
side Phoenix, though, just died to the fire minions. Having to defend it is Solo Q. Teleport, not even purchase here. It was the sprint and the shell, so he's not going to be available for this Phoenix siege.
I don't think they need him, though. Buzzley is tanky enough to deal with the Phoenixes, and Kukito is...
He needs to go on
He
Pico
cannot
Waves.
go in.
If there's anyone that he goes on, it has to be Pico Waves, sitting at about 75% health. That's his only target that he can actually go on.
These 4, though, have so much damage. I don't think that Kukito stands a chance trying to keep them out of this Titan room.
Oh no, it's going to be 1 versus 4 here. He gets instantly bursted and deleted. Sinister Esports were on the defensive the entire game, and now 1 team fight, 1 misstep by Bitty Wetwalk brings them back into it here, winning the first game of this best of 3 set.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The fact that it went down in that way, it really seemed as though that was going to be a very promising team fight, and instead, it just results in the unfolding of BT.
Well, Pico Waves played a fantastic early game Habwa, and then transitioning into the mid game struggled a little bit of his footing. He needed to find the right targets, but everyone started collapsing on him. The Bracket Ultimates wasn't making his life any easier, but that one little misstep now coming out allowed him back into the game, and with this one game, definitely breathing a sigh of relief heading into game 2.
They just invested so much into having full-on damage that it finally came into play towards the end there. That's why we saw PD providing so much respect towards Sinisters, and that was sort of, it felt like the moment we'd all been waiting for was for that full damage composition to come through. But more importantly, Pico is, I think, really saving the game by connecting that crushing wave onto the soul from the get-go.
That kill onto Lean specifically, also the Discordia cannot really find the abilities afterwards, couldn't defend herself, and the composition from BD Wetwalk wasn't like that janky compared to Sinister, but they still couldn't find the right engagement under the Phoenixes. It seems that both LATAM North and LATAM South finding their struggles in the end game, but have fantastic early to mid games.
Seems, though, that Sinister don't want to have to run back the soul, and they don't want to deal with a Thoth either, but now it's going to be Petey taking that Circuit for themselves, and this could be a heavy flex pick option. It could be a support, like what we just saw Sinister doing, or they could take it into the jungle.
Well, in response, Agni will be the selection alongside the Artio for Sinister, trying to get that cripple minefield. It just works out so well to stop the engagement from a lot of gods, especially Circuit, that heavily relies on that double engagement tools between our 1 and our 3.
I think this was a very smart two-god pickup as well. Just so much interrupt already for the Circuit, should it be a Circuit jungle. Agni's got great self-peel away from it on top of the stun that he can find, and Artio with the cripple field, of course, and now even further interrupt the Sobek having the tail whip and even the Plux. So Circuit as the first pick is normally something to be celebrating, but in this circumstance,
it's tricky.
Sinister has a spooky 3-man composition.
It's just a great mid-game composition of team fighting already from what I'm seeing out of Sinister. But can they survive the early game that Circuit will provide in terms of the ganking potential? Morrigan and Discordia are their mage bans from Sinister. PD Wet Walk taking away junglers. Susanoo and the Daji with a Hu Yi pick for Sinister still need their jungler.
Osiris going to be the next choice, as well as the new Wa. So a little bit of, or a lot of early game, I should say, to help make up for New Wa's laning phase. She might be struggling a little bit in that circumstance. But lane looked awesome on the Discordia.
Yeah, absolutely. And what looks even more awesome is this Hunbat's last pick coming from Sinister. So much control in this composition here. You got the Sobek, Agni, Artio, the Suns from Hu Yi, the Fear No Evil from Hunbats. Let's heading into game number 2 here. Let's see what Sinister can do in these team fights.
This is like a complete 180 from Sinister's previous draft to the draft that they have now. It's like, where did you guys decide to pick up tanks from?
Yeah, it's just like a totally foreign thing for me to see, at least compared to game number 1. But as game number 2 is right around the corner here, Sinister Esports with a lot of momentum under themselves, taking a win here after 50 minutes of play.
My concern for PD is that, sure, they have some early game presence, but how is that going to transition into the team fight? Because there is just so much AoE control provided by Sinister's draft with the Fear No Evil, the Suns out of the Hu Yi, even Sobek's lurking in the waters, and of course, Bugs with those bombs. They just have a bunch of circles all over the place.
Well, you're going to have to find those, intersections to be able to get away from them. Easier said than done, obviously. The composition from PD Wet Walk. Osiris in the Soul Lane can mitigate a lot of the incoming damage. Obviously, Nuwa can go into the sky to deter herself into safety. Circuit needs to avoid the cripple minefield, and then she'll be A-okay. That's easier said than done. And Sylvanas is going to be probably that primary bait here. A lot of supports struggle in terms of surviving that early game, and right off the bat, leveling the pluck at level 1. What a surprise tactic out of Buzzley.
And Abyss as well, going to eat out a pretty huge chunk of his health, but they're still going to manage to out-clear in the wave, especially since
another pluck onto Abyss yet again, really wanting to get off the damage. This delays the purple buff invade quite heavily.
It delays it, but I don't think it's going to really do much to it. They should still be able to siege this big creep by the time that Buzzley ends.
They can fight, though, if they really wanted to. They pop the spread onto Abyss. Another 2 members here are right around the red buff. Abyss is caught between a rock and a hard place, but distracting him is Quiquito. Couldn't make the rotations, unfortunately, was Pico Ways.
It just felt unnecessarily aggressive between Buzzley and Joao. They had no reason really to be there, especially when they knew that the purple buff had already been stripped away.
Oh, not finding the sickle from a distance there, just max distance. Solo Q thanking his lucky stars, and that's the problem with going Mage's busing as opposed to the Warrior's busing. You don't have the damage reduction from not only whoever you're facing against, but also the wave, not to mention that sustain that you get every 10 seconds.
Speaking of sustain, Pico probably wishing he had a little bit to spare, as Quiquito is going to be looking, but a nice stun
during the Cobra's kiss. Trying to get away, Deathbane shall be used to retreat under the tier 1 middle tower. Quiquito thanking himself that he had that available. And that's going to leave this Nuwa isolated and alone, but all the abilities are being used onto the wave and not the Nuwa.
Thought for a moment that Pico would be looking for, oh, he went for it in the end, going on those back harpies. He's really low on mana, though, going to get a little bit back from clearing those.
Got spotted out, though. The rotation happened from Kukito. He thought that he would have time to do his own back harpies before the speed buff, and he was correct in thinking so, but Pico always had other intentions with him.
I like that punish, though. You force out the enemy jungler, make them back to base, and in the early game, those harpies are actually super important. If you can steal away even 2 sets of them from your opposition, you're usually going to be sitting about a level ahead of them.
And they come up every 1 minute with buffs respawning every 2, so there's a lot of timings and windows you can really exploit in Season 5. You don't always have to focus your intention onto both lanes. You just choose out one and heavily control how much gold income you're going to get from all those camps.
I love the fact, though, that Bugs has already pretty much made his standing zone in the mid lane, but that was just a great invade by Kukito. He's taken away the red buff. Purple buff's going to fall in the same manner, and this is just results of that over-aggression from Duo.
Oh, solo Q, soloing Maverick against an Osiris with so much protections here. That is just really rough stuff. Osiris is normally known as the Broken God because he's unkillable here. That's literally his title here. Getting plugged in is Abyss. Right around the corner, peek away. Sprint being popped. Nua ultimate. Trying to do the last hit damage. It will not be enough to take out Buzzy, but the pull onto the Hou Yi. He's jumping away. Kukito, though, coming right around the corner.
And Pico is still going to be forced to jump away, but that's not going to get him out in time. Instead,
the plug under the tower! Sobek enabling at least one tower shot, but the Deathbane was still available for the disengage. This is what makes Serket such a highly contested pick. Whenever she goes in, she'll always have another ability to get out.
All I'm saying is if Kukito has... Oh, actually hold that thought as, by the way, trying to get some in-hands off onto Buzzley. Thought for a moment there he'd be able to punish further, but that Ricochet just stops the aggression from coming through and the other creep wave. But going back to it, if Kukito just invested the risk versus reward of a blink there, he probably ends up finding a kill.
I definitely would have to agree with you there. And keep in mind, though, there's no fear for Buzzley. He leveled that pluck at level 1, and despite being like 25% health under his own tier 1 tower, still went for it, trying to catch out either Abyss or his lane partner here. That's been relatively quiet so far on this Kerninos.
What hasn't been quiet, though, is this action in the solo lane. Is Maverick going to be able to find the stun, but he's already running pretty low on mana. Solo Q just trying to match it, but the Warriors blessing.
That's right.
Tons of regen.
A lot of movement speed here for both of them now, having their boosts fully completed. More damage on the side of Maverick, but more mana and cooldown reduction from Solo Q. And that's going to be the name of the game, considering Solo Q is relying on his abilities to sustain him as opposed to the Warrior's blessing.
Maverick's got to be careful, too, not to get baited out again like what we saw happen in game 1 with the shells. And Pico Ways
right here.
Waiting.
Right around the corner. Fear No Evil is available if he wants to go for it, but thinking other of it, wants to kind of help out the mid lane. Probably knows that Abyss is right around the corner, and it's very easy to take out a Sylvanas like this.
And Abyss, he wanted to be the one starting things off. I think he just wanted purification beads because
Lean was not even close.
It makes no sense, though, even if he did want the beads, to stand that out of position for so long.
Yeah, he wanted to find something out of nothing here and gets absolutely punished for it. Sylvanas is such a great god for setup, but being so immobile, not having any sort of gap closing abilities, not having any movement speed modifiers, is basically a sitting duck.
Maverick forced underneath his tower, but Lean gonna make sure to clear those harpies so Pico's not gonna have the opportunity to steal them away for now. And Kukito is still slightly ahead in XP now because of it.
And that's what he's been normally known to do in a lot of these games. In game number 1, he was ahead of Pico Waves in the experience department despite so many kills. Solo Q now going to get stunned out. Last breath and last life. Solo Q gets caught between a rock and a hard place.
I think Pico Waves was expecting that one to go down in that way because he immediately jumped away. Didn't want anything to do with Solo Q. It almost seemed like he didn't even know who he was for a second there.
Cool guys don't look at explosions, and that's exactly what he did. Just does the quick ambush fadeaway, getting the kill, trying to min-max his farm.
You see the auto proc, though, off of the Serket? Just completely shred through the shell.
Oh, yeah.
And not a chance in the world for Solo Q to survive.
That's the passive of Cirquet in fruition here. The zigzag comes out, but this time prepared was Agni. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, says Bugs. But the red buff still secured during that death bane. He couldn't find the guaranteed last hit was Bugs.
Cirquet's just so troublesome sometimes. That's what she does best. She thrives in those chaotic environments where, is she invading my buff again? Yes. Can I lock her down? Probably not.
Beads was needed to be used earlier on, actually, so Quiquito could have definitely took a spill if there was more members around. Definitely was communicated, but it's just there's certain timings and windows that needs to be communicated before the red buff invade were to occur. Maverick still poking out Solo Q, wants his revenge.
Maverick needs his revenge.
Oh, yeah.
I think at this point, it's 2 games in a row now. It's felt as though he's kind of struggled in this laning phase against Solo Q, and
I think he got spotted out by a ward right around the corner. Quiquito smells something's fishy. We'll back off. Not going to look for any sort of action right around that corner. Back harpies will go to Pico Waves instead. Both of them trying to find the farm, but it's actually going to be Quiquito hitting level 9 first.
And this has been a very sharp lull in action immediately after what happened at the start of this game. I was expecting a lot more to be happening in this duo, but I think Buzzley and Joao are still licking their wounds from the last time.
They're just behind too much experience now. Both of them sitting at level 6. You got level 7 on Abyss, level 8 on Pandy. And where is the advantage for them? Right now, it's not looking like they have any in the experience or the gold advantage, as PD Wetwalker are controlling both sides of the coin.
Which is perfect because Lean, going on such a low pressure pick for the laning phase, now doesn't even have to worry about any of that, since both of his side lanes are still sitting in a pretty nice spot. Despite Maverick having gotten soloed earlier, he's recovered pretty well and seems to be keeping up in terms of experience.
The later this game goes, the more I gotta favor out Sinister Esports, though. Like we were talking about, the control aspect of their composition. I don't feel as though that Pity Wetwalk has established that big of a lead quite yet to really run away with it, and that's why they're grouping up around this Gold Fury.
And Sinister, they don't even care.
They got spotted out. Oh, they got spotted out by the new Satellite Ultimate right around the corner. The backhand side is going to be the Circuit. Wrath of Terror from the front side. Sinister Esports will secure it for themselves, but at what cost? Are they going to lose anybody? Buzzley gets taken out here by the last breath, but separates himself away from Pico Waves, will not spread that ultimate.
Speaking of which, Bugs gonna be able to catch Quiquito, and that's gonna do it. Quiquito went so deep there, trying to get that kill onto Buzzley, gonna end up losing his own life instead, and that is 100 times more valuable for Bugs.
PD Wetwalk caught slipping. They're the ones with the advantage. They should be the ones forcing the Gold Fury under 5-on-5 circumstances, and 10 minutes in, it's Sinister that are feeling confident with their team fighting control composition. And as the game progresses, could be getting into a slippery slope for Pity Wetwalk.
Sinister are also crazy, by the way, for completely 50-50 in that objective. They did not care who was coming through out of PD to try and contest it. As soon as that ultimate came through from the Hu Yi, not a chance in hell that they were going to let that one reset.
Now, to be fair to them, they didn't see Quiquito coming because he was wrapping around the Gold Fury side. There was no vision from Sinister. If they had that intel, they probably don't even go for the Gold Fury, and they don't get it. So, in a weird way, they're probably thanking themselves that they didn't see Circuit to make that happen.
But
a little bit of luck, but
it did happen, and that luck is certainly in their favor for them to have gotten away with it. And now, PD, the once small bit of an experience lead that they had is just completely irrelevant now. They've brought things back on track, and Sinister bringing the game back in tow is the worst thing that could have possibly happened for PD, because the laning phase is really the most advantageous point that they have in this match.
It's very true. The experience is still a little bit in the favor of Pity Wetwalk, but gold all in all tied up basically here. Still hitting each other with pillows in the solo lane, sustaining a little bit off of the poke from Maverick. Remember, if Lord of the Afterlife does connect, that's 100% anti-healing. He could look for a kill onto solo queue as they're both trading out. Now making the rotation. Fear No Evil right on top of Maverick, having to use that ultimate defensively. New ultimate being used, trying to assist that Osiris solo lane, not being fruitful. Tier 1 solo lane tower is actually going to get removed as well. Sinister Esports making a comeback here, Taco.
And they are able to take the T1 tower as well. They don't even have to be concerned about Abyss. He's full health, full mana, but he's also Sylvanas.
That's a level 9 Sylvanas without the Gauntlet of Thebes quite yet. Same thing goes to Buzzley, trying to get those items a little bit quicker. Chalice of the Oracle for the Sobek support, really wanting to get that vision online. And he's positioning those wards very aggressively at times beneath those mid Harpies, wanting to identify where Pity Wetwalk is coming from. And the way Quiquito has been moving has been really slippery. Catching that Circuit in your own jungle is the goal for Sinister.
He's been slippery, but he's been acting by himself more often than not. And sure, a couple of picks here and there for Circuit are usually pretty nice to have, but Circuit still relies pretty heavily, I think, on a team around her. That's why we see this pick so contested at a competitive level of play, because she can solo carry games to an extent, but I honestly have always felt as though Circuit really relies on the rest of her team to kind of follow up with her, to cause that distraction factor so she can work her way into the backline and get those picks that you need in order to successfully secure objectives or just push the advantage on tower sieges. And we just haven't seen a whole lot of that for PD.
Quiquito has made a lot of success thus far for his team with 100% of his team's kills, but unfortunately, he needs somebody else to step up. And that is why they're grouping up a little bit here in mid lane. Not wanting to get caught out alone was Abyss from the last time that he got isolated. Gets spotted out here by some vision. Will Sentry Ward, but as he was doing that, he was backpedaling away. Eats 2 bombs for his trouble. Pico Waves taking out Quiquito in the jungle.
He used those beads as well. Fear No Evil was dropped by Pico, and I'm pretty confident that somebody might have found themselves a lucky crit or two.
Yeah.
And based on how things have been going for Sinisters, luck is certainly on their side.
As well. He's going to catch him with a monkey bounce, forces out the Aegis, still commits to the jump here. Yao going to drop the Suns right under him, forcing out the beads, does not want to get slowed under there.
They couldn't completely zone the current away from his tower. Meanwhile, though, Abyss going to get plugged in, and
He's
got
gone.
nowhere to go.
He's gone completely. Gets slowed out by lurking in the water. Overhand smash. Cannot connect with the tail whip for the last hit, but here comes Yao with a ricochet.
I was about to be so mad if Caster's Curse hit then and there, but instead, Cardenos on the run, still taking huge chunks of health from Yao.
The ultimate was
here it
defensive. Quiquito with the blink, taking out Yao, rotating his Maverick on the top side. Here comes the last breath, avenging now onto Bugs with the double kill. Now focusing on the Gold Fury. Sinister Esports, Buzzley, and Solo Q will force the reset thus far. Still going to be a 2-on-3. It's Quiquito taking a lot of damage here, hitting by the beams. Shell buying him some time to stun, keeping him alive for the moment, but more importantly, disengaging on the Gold Fury.
He buys some time on the Gold Fury, that's for sure, and Buzzley's still hovering around here, and I'm just surprised that PD wouldn't just take the Gold Fury. There's no reason not to.
They wanted to go for it, but they were really fearful of the pure burst damage between these two frontline Guardians here. Now, early game, you don't really have to respect the Guardians, but a level 15 Artio with Voidstone can definitely pack quite the punch. Don't forget about Buzzley here. That can create so much disruption. That's exactly what happened. That tail whip basically took everybody away from the Gold Fury circle, and it was basically a forced reset.
I just don't think that they had to disengage that
no,
much.
Maverick, Fear No Evil, catching Maverick with less than half health. It's difficult to kill an Osiris, but not when he was that low to begin with.
It's just misstep after misstep from PD. They should have had that Gold Fury, totally. I just can't agree that an Artio should be able to prevent all of them from committing to the Gold Fury, especially since they had zero problems fragging him. Only Quiquito getting forced away, but the Gold Fury still could have been picked up during that time period.
Stun from Lean onto Solo Q, going to deter him a little bit away from the Pyromancer objective, and I definitely agree with you here, Taco. But keep in mind that there weren't that many ultimate cooldowns from Pity Wetwalk to really lock down Solo Q fast enough. They definitely did everything that they could to get the kill fast enough and ignoring the RDO, you're rolling the dice yet again for another 50-50 potential.
Well, they're not going to roll the dice on this Pyromancer, as they will make sure to secure that. And Solo Q going to get taken out for his efforts. The Gold Fury wasn't even touched by anybody from Sinister.
True.
They just didn't have any of their members around the area in time to really look at that.
Maverick making the rotation here in the dual lane just in case that Gold Fury does get looked at. I like his positioning here after respawning, but he could get looked at here. Forced into the Lord of the Afterlife. He was really worried about that Fear No Evil.
A little bit too early, though, I would say. Because Pico didn't even seem like he was even remotely interested in trying to single target ult a level 16 Osiris, because he knows that the Gold Fury's still up. He's never going to use that Fear No Evil when the Gold Fury's
blinking on the Fear No Evil onto the Kernanos, forced to disengage the beats and the dash away. Nuwa up in the fire shards just to spot out the location of everybody. Sees that they're not even close. They're going to start it up yet again, but without the fire shards, without Lord of the Afterlife, without Wrath of Terror, it's going to be a difficult way to kill any members. Last breath used on Pika Waves. He's going to reset a little bit on the right. Gold Fury still getting leashed back and forth, back and forth. The Kernos, remember, shifting of the seasons. He goes in that spring split, and then he's going to be able to get a lot of life returned.
And Pico able to take away the red buff while everybody's distracted on the Gold Fury pit, but Sinister are falling pretty low here. Some of the damage now coming through from Bugs on those Agni bombs, but
Pluck almost on the mark to Quiquito. He's able to Death Bane away. Wrath of Terror onto 3. Bomb not connecting here. Coming from Bugs, but still engaging a little bit more. Eliminated his Pandy. The sun's on the tree. Don't burn the tree. Save the forest. It's Maverick that's going to be the next target. Looked at. His ultimate not available. 3 dead on the side of Pity Wetwalk. And it's Sinister now looking for the Gold Fury.
There's no one around to contest it. They know that this is free. They already took the red buff as well. Purple buff available if Puyi wants to go for it, but seems as though he'd rather just push out the lane, and for good reason. It's because the rest of his team is in mid, still trying to force even more away from Pity.
Sinister are just making a comeback here yet again compared to game number 1. Quiquito trying to make it happen here, but he's getting juggled with all the CC. Cannot escape between the ambush and Deathbane. He gets locked down. Solo Q takes out the Circuit jungle while the rest of Speedy Wetwalk can just watch from a distance. Sinister, they get the tier 1 mid, they get the tier 1 in the duel lane, getting an additional 1,000 gold now, extending that lead to 4,000 now very quickly here, Taco.
And that's just what you expect to happen as soon as a team is able to be so dominant in a team fight. Not only were Sinister able to control that, despite having initially lower health bars than that of Pity, it's just that their target selection seemed much better and way more focused onto stripping away. First they take down one, then they go for another and another, and it was just a constant distraction factor where I just feel as though Pity got really lost.
Yes, I definitely feel that Pity are on the worst end of things here. It's 20 minutes into the game, 7-11, read the kill lines, and Sinister looking good to make a comeback here, you know, with that sneaky early Gold Fury objective catching me personally off guard, let alone Pity Wetwalk not in position to truly defend that successfully, to now losing multiple objectives left, right, and center. Now losing some more towers. Their tier 2 towers still remain for the moment, but not for long if they continue to play like this.
Not for long at all, and this is breaking down at a much faster pace as well for Sinister. Their team fighting draft really starting to shine here in a lot of these jungle engagements, and I just love that Buzzley has so much control as well on this Sobek.
Much better than the Circuit support, that's for sure. Way more options towards controlling these team fights. Nuwa not going to explode those clay golems onto Buzzley as he plucks away into safety. Playing the Sobek support here, he's really able to get in the thick of things, and he loves to play aggressive with those plucks, which leads me to believe that's why he chose to go for the Circuit originally. Also, fearful of Quiquito's Circuit. He had a great start in the game, but now slowing down the pace yet again. Pico Waves, though, playing the Hun Bats this time around, a lot different of a style than his last performance in game 1.
It is a very different performance out of Pico than the game one, but he's been a part of 10 out of 11 kills. We saw a very similar scoreline for him in the last match as well. I remember around this mark, he was sitting at 7-3-1, I believe, on the Havois, and had been a participant of 8 out of 9 kills. So seems like he has a thing for just coming up one shy.
Just one shy. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're getting the job done at the end of the day. Pico Waves setting his team up for a good location to get objectives. The right side grouping by both teams around the Pyromancer as it respawns here. Pings coming out for where the wards are. Quiquito gonna Deathbane away here. Really didn't want to get rooted by Solo Q.
Solo Q and the gang, though, they're just looking straight at the Pyromancer, and it doesn't seem as though anyone from PT wants to try and contest it. Although Pyromancer, not necessarily the worst objective in the world to lose. Not a whole lot really happening in terms of a massive golden experience gain. It's mostly just for that nice little passive of leaving the base a bit faster.
It's just a filler episode, Taco, like I mentioned in game number 1. There's nothing to do. You don't want to do the Fire Giant because it's too risky. Gold Fury is not up for a little bit. So you're going to have that filler episode of the Pyromancer. Sinister going to get that boost of movement speed if they elect to back to the fountain to pick up some more items, which is exactly what Solo Q and Bugs are going to do. Bugs trying to finish off that penetration and hold that thought, though, in the dual lane, hitting so many crits there, forcing out both relics and the ultimate out of Panda. He has survived, so good retreat.
Very suave, I would say, out of Pico Waves, waiting to teleport off of that monkey after waiting for a Pandy to actually dash. Once the Kernanos dash had finished, then he teleports in with the Sacred Monkey, so he doesn't have to worry about missing the in-hand afterwards.
True. It's a similar style to dealing with a Giannis that drops a portal. You want to wait for them to take the portal before you follow them through it here. Solo Q trying to defend his tier 1 solo tower. Maverick, he does secure it, but the question is, can he run away now?
Well, Thorns are going to get popped, so that's going to be enough to make Pico Waves not be interested in this engagement any longer, but more importantly, it's the Circuit that was hanging around that's going to cause Solo Q to give up on that Osiris kill.
I think Pico Waves spotted that out. There was a ward on the top right mid-Harpy. They saw Pico Waves needed to disengage there, so Quiquito doing a great rotation. Go Fear now. The third one. Can it be secured by Sinister? They're going to go for it.
They shouldn't have too many issues here. Buzzley kind of just toying around with it. There is a ward, so Biddy know that Sinister are trying to maybe pull this Gold Fury as Buzzley's going to mess with it yet again. I think he's just trying to see what kind of a response they can gather, because they're not certain as to whether or not this Gold Fury is actually warded.
Throwing a brick through the window, as FDOT would say, to see the response time, but response time a little staggered here from PD Wetwalk. Sinister going to try yet again, dropping the Sentry Ward to establish vision dominance.
They're so far away.
Around the left side. Yeah, they are. They are really far away. And with the Fire Shards, they do spot them out. Not doing that much damage, though. It's still only level 18 Nuwa with only 4 items completed.
And even then, you would kind of expect a little bit more damage, but hold that thought, because Maverick's just getting controlled and torn apart. Kikito's going to have to dash on out of there with the Purification Beads.
Maverick trying to disengage here. Lord of the Afterlife over the wall, getting a lot of mitigation now with that passive. If he elects to go back into it, his blink, or his teleport rather, is available if he wants to try to defend this tier 2 tower. And that's the goal, I think, of Sinister. No, they're actually going to back on out of here. Not going to go for any sort of tower pushes, despite Lean and Maverick using their ultimate. Without Fear No Evil, that's the big deterrence here from them getting any more objectives.
I like that Sinister are backing off, because they're going to be able to full heal and then maybe look to siege the Fire Giant. Those were 2 pretty important ultimates that they forced away from PD, and knowing that the Gold Fury isn't going to be a counter objective for PD to take, Sinister have all the time in the world to take a look at this Fire Giant.
They're kind of pushing and pulling PD all over the place, as Quiquito did back over the ward, I believe, so could be more aggression on the right side. Sinister Esports feeling confident enough to go for this Fire Giant. Gets spotted out by Maverick. Maverick is the only one close enough to defend this one.
And Maverick, not sure he's going to be able to, as he's going to get stunned down instead by the Ardio getting
The
plucked
pluck.
into all of them. But he's still got the Thorns pop, so they're going to wait a second before trying to deal any
And
damage.
it's also the passive that gives him so much mitigation. 16% physical, 8% magical to be exact. Is really annoying to deal with that Osiris passive at times, and just going to walk away cleanly with the Fire Giant objective. The first one of the game at the 27-minute mark.
And a bit of a slow play on that as well, but Sinister did exactly what we were expecting them to. They didn't keep pushing any of those towers because they all wanted it back to, they could rush down that Fire Giant as quickly as possible, and PD just don't really seem to know how to respond.
Definitely not going to be the case for PD to defend any objectives without the vision control. Sinister is just always one step ahead in the Sentry ward control department. Pico Waves wrapping around underneath. The blink, the fear no evil, the crits coming out. Both relics jumping away from the Kernos ultimate. A clean pickoff from Pico Waves.
And that's a huge loss to Pity as well, because Ben the Way was one of their main damage sources, I would say, after Maverick and the new one. Without him, it's going to make this defense even harder. Sinister could potentially choose to just compete pushing this right-hand lane rather than worrying about the T2 and in mid and solo.
That's what they're going to do, Taco. It's a 5-1-4 for 35 seconds, doing so much damage to this Phoenix. A nice blink Wrath of Terror, though, coming out, knocking up 4 members to disengage for the moment out of Sinister. But it's Maverick that gets locked down. He's forced to use the Lord of the Afterlife defensively. Fire Shards up in the sky, jumping in the backline is Pico Waves. Quiquito barely able to get out of that one, but can't say the same for Abyss.
And check out the Hu Yi, all the while just happily auto-attacking down the Phoenix until finally Sinister are able to claim it for themselves. And now, with that left-hand Phoenix being stripped away, the pressure's on to PD, and there were so many members that were super low there that I'm actually a little bit surprised that they managed to only lose Abyss in the process, because everyone was going in, but at different moments, so they weren't really combining any of their ultimates together.
A minute and 45 seconds remain on the Fire Giant buff. They stripped away the left side tier 2 and the Phoenix, now transitioning into the tier 2 mid, securing that one for themselves, positioning themselves for the tier 2 on the right. The last remaining structure for PD Wet Walk. The Monkey Bounce connects the crit for 609 damage onto the Circuit jungle. Having Mad Guy's Cloak for a little bit of defensive purposes and health, more importantly, to survive all the control from Sinister.
I want to see a hard push out of Sinister within the next minute, because I want to see Pico try and kill this Kernos again before those purification beads are back up. It seems as though Sinister would rather back and spend everything they just got, though, out of their last push, and for good reason.
Deathbringer now onto Pico Waves, amplifying those passives.
No real reason for
Okay.
Sinister to be in a rush here, and the 1K crits are starting to come through now. 1147.
Now, it's not going to do 1147 on an enemy god, because the protections of those minions don't exactly have the same value as enemy gods, but that's a rough estimate of what you're going to be dealing to a backline carry. If that's going to be hitting for 1140 on that speed buff, how much do you think that Bandy is going to get hit for?
Anywhere from 950 to 1060, I would say.
Okay. So basically 2-shot if he gets off another crit.
Pretty much 2-shot if you get hit by that Unbot's passive crit. And we'll get a chance to find out.
Lean will use the Aegis to buy some time, jumping away from the Kernos ultimate. Pico Waves thinking otherwise. Maverick in a lot of trouble. Thorns and disengaging away all the ultimates expended defensively by PD Wet Walk just to keep themselves alive. But Yao Wow, Bugs, and Solo Q looking confident to go back in here. But Fire Giant still respawning in 45 seconds. Sinister going to play these out very methodically.
By the skin of their teeth, Maverick and Kukito managed to survive there, and that's just way too close for comfort. If you're asking me, PD cannot afford to leave their Phoenix ranges anymore, and I think they've started to realize that now more than ever. And this damage out of Sinister's full comp is just so hard to handle, because you try to pinpoint any one of their carries and you're probably just going to be counter-aggressed on so heavily and controlled between the Ardio, Hunbots, and the Sobek. It's just so impossible, it feels, for PD to do anything else other than try and pray that their Phoenix can work as that effective 6-man in dealing damage to hopefully take out Sinister before they are able to attack.
It's trying to be a split push tactic, gonna get chased down by Picos as the rest of his team secures the Fire Giant. They're gonna get disrupted by the Cobra's Kiss here. Last Breath being used defensively, Deathbaning away. It's just been a wild goose chase of the two junglers. Not going to find the kill, but without that last breath, it's going to be easier now for Sinister to get these remaining 2 Phoenixes.
And Pico also didn't use that Fear No Evil. Could have dropped it to at least force the beads away from the Circuit, but no real need to.
Mad Guy's Cloak from Quiquito, that's why. He did not want to waste that ultimate just to proc that item.
It looked as though his Mad Guys had already worn off and that it just re-popped for him.
It's very difficult to micromanage a lot of things in Smite. Normally, you're trying to do beads timers, but managing Mad Guy's Cloak timers as well, that's like next level.
The top team is
we have that information here, Taco. I'm not sure these players might necessarily have that there for themselves.
And even still, though, that left-hand Phoenix is looking mighty weak, and I like what Pico's doing here and pushing down the creeps that they do have available just to bear a threat against BD, because there's 2 members now trying to help defend against Pico here. And that's a Fire Wave as well that's managed to survive this far.
Trying to get the middle Phoenix here, the pluck onto Pandy there, will force the dash away defensively. The crits are coming out. It's Buzzley left alone. Mantle of Discord will get him out of danger for now. The crit, 944 was the magic number.
6 off, but that
Just
doesn't matter
6.
because right now, all that matters is whether or not Sinister are going to be able to close out this game. They don't have as much health as what they would probably like, but they've got a couple members backing, and the creeps actually almost managed to take out the left-hand Phoenix.
The bombs are raining in. The Suns as well. All the fire from Sinister Esports onto that middle Phoenix. Jumping in with the Lord of the Afterlife. Trying to hold on for dear life is Maverick here, but can't get any more follow-up. Need to watch out for the DPS from Pico Waste. If that monkey bounce connects, it bounces off of Maverick onto Pandy, and the teleport basic attack probably one-shots him there.
Every single ultimate is now down, though, for PT. They don't have any way to rely on those ultimates for their defenses. And Bugs still has those bombs charging. That's one of the benefits of having an Agni in comparison to a new wall. Those bombs consistently recharge.
15,000 gold lead for Sinister Esports here. Was left side Phoenix respawning. I'm expecting that should have been the course of action for themselves, to try to get the weakened Phoenix to respawn, but Fire Giants still around their waist for another minute and 5 seconds as we approach the 35-minute mark here at Taco. Sinister are looking very clean in terms of finding the picks that they really want. How does PD Wetwalk go to game 3 here?
They need a super successful Phoenix defense. They need Sinister to not only mess up their engage, but PD's carries have to be as spread apart from each other as possible so that they don't all get caught up in that Fear No Evil at the same time, being forced out of their relics. And Lean has to connect with a huge game-changing Shiny Metal and Ultimate, I think. It's just so hard to find that.
Round number 9, apparently, from Sinister Esports in the mid lane, blinking in, catching out Kernanos. His relics are being used, but too much control on the Kernanos. First pick successful. Last breath will take away Pico Waste in response. Under the Suns is the Abyss, the Tail Whip, the jump. Yao Wow taking out the second member. Sinister still looking to be aggressive. It's going to be Solo Q taking out Lean. 3 dead on the side of PD. Dashing away defensively is the Agni as Yao Wow takes out another one. It's only Maverick to be defensive here.
There's no way Maverick can possibly hold out 4 members. Solo Q just a little bit too healthy. Same can be said for Buzzley. Maverick has to kill both Bugs and Yao Wow in a moment, but he's not going to get the chance to. This Titan is falling so incredibly low.
That's it. The bombs are raining down here at Sinister Esports. They won the first one. They get the second. They win LATAM South here. Phase 2, Week 2 over PD Wetwalk.
And it was a hard-fought battle, I would say, for both teams. Even though it was a 2-0 technically in the set, it did not feel like it was an easy-come, easy-serve situation in the slightest for Sinisters. Although in the second game, they definitely seemed a little bit more clean and put together than the first one. But still a lot of potential had to be had there from PT.
Just a quick peek about what happened earlier on today in the brackets as PT Wetwalk taking out the Dragons in the semifinals, whereas Sinister Esports took out some Foxes on their neck of the woods. And this is what's going to allow themselves, both of these two finalists teams, to advance to week number 4 here of Phase 2. And man, a lot of action here between both LATAM North and South.
And it was a fun ride the whole way through. LATAM North, I think, a little bit more aggressive, I would say for sure. Tons of action to be had in that first set, but I loved how cerebral Sinister seemed towards the end there. They were really taking their time with their fights, knowing no rush necessary, guys. Let's just take it easy and not overdo it. And in the end, that was part of the reason why they were able to find that successful Titan push and end.
Well, with that wrapped up here, that's going to conclude it here for the SGS. But later on today, we're also going to have some more Smite Pro League action here. It's going to be the North American side of things starting at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So I hope to see you guys there on mixer.com/SmiteGame.